Chapter 226. Qiao Jin did not like furry things, so when she touched Ding Dang, she felt a soft but stiff body. Ding Dang, don't dare move, don't dare move. Qiao Jin had never touched a cat before, she had never even raised a pet before. Even if she did raise one, it would definitely not be a weak and powerless creature like a cat. So she did not even know how to hug Ding Dang, she only used one hand to grab onto its back. Because it was lying on its back and its body was stiff, she felt as if she was grabbing onto a toy. Upon seeing this, Song Yanqing found it a bit funny. Ding Dang is just not familiar with you, you can touch its stomach or the back of its neck. If you slowly touch it, it will relax. Qiao Jin placed Ding Dang in her arms and touched its stomach. Its stiff paws reacted a bit, it raised its paws as if it wanted to block its stomach, but found that it could not block it. Its golden eyes looked at Qiao Jin, not fiercely, but with a bit of fear. Animals have intelligence, it can distinguish which are the most dangerous existences. Without a doubt, Qiao Jin was this dangerous in its eyes. Qiao Jin touched it a few times and lost her patience, she put Ding Dang back on the table. Not fun. Ding Dang saw that it was let go, but it seemed to be uninterested. Its eyes stared at Qiao Jin, but its body automatically rolled around, and after 2 rounds, it rolled back into Song Yanqing's arms. Song Yanqing could not help but laugh. Raising a cat is like this, it seems like you don't like small animals. They are very troublesome, aren't they? Qiao Jin only stared at him. Who wants you to feed it, who wants you to tease it, if it can't serve you, then what's the point of raising it? Song Yanqing, his shoulders shook as if he was amused by Qiao Jin's naivety. He looked at her helplessly and said, "That's what it's like to have a pet. It's better to have something to accompany you than to be alone, isn't it?" Qiao Jin felt that his words had another meaning. She paused. "I'm not alone now." She had Qiao Fei and the others. In the past, Qiao Jin did not have the concept of family. She seemed to have forgotten how she came to be. It was as if she was born from heaven and earth, but also as if she had parents. But it had been too long, and she had forgotten. Even if she did, her parents had already disappeared in the long river of history. Her current parents were Qiao Fei. "Of course you're not alone. You have your family, and you have me." His voice was very gentle. He was just telling a simple fact, and he said it so naturally. It didn't make Qiao Jin feel that it was unreasonable. She nodded. "Yes, and you, my friend." His eyes flashed as he rubbed Ding Dang's belly but did not say anything. After a long silence, Song Yanqing asked her, "Did you get the spirit seed?" Qiao Jin nodded. "There is a problem with this Yu Psyche. She has been given an amplification array, something that can only be done by an array master. It can temporarily increase her strength. I need to investigate her. I have a feeling that this array master is related to the person who changed your fate." Song Yanqing's hand that was stroking the cat paused, and his voice was calm. Then why did he give an unrelated female student an amplification array? Even if he wanted to cause trouble for us, this girl is too far away. Yes, so I need to know more about her. I'm waiting for He Yaro's results. Song Yanqing nodded. "I will also investigate her." He hugged the cat and stood up. "It's about time, I'll send you back." Chapter 227. Song Yanqing sent Qiao Jin back. Of course, he still didn't enter the Mu family's house. Qiao Jin also didn't have the intention to invite him into the Mu family's house. Firstly, Song Yanqing's identity was special. If he was willing, he would find a suitable time to visit. Qiao Jin returned home. Not long after, He Yaro sent a message to Qiao Jin. "He Yaro, Yu Psyche's spirit seed is gone. They were ordered to bring Yu Psyche back this time." The result was as expected. The spirit seed was gone. This time, Qiao Jin didn't even appear. He Yaro couldn't figure out how Qiao Jin did it. Even if he could snatch a spiritual seed, it was too scary for him to take the spiritual seed of a spiritual psyche master without even showing up. She even suspected that Qiao Jin didn't appear at the scene. "It's Jin Jinyo, oh." One word. The coldness made He Yaro understand that the spirit seed was taken away by Qiao Jin. Although she didn't understand how he did it, He Yaro was very clear about one thing. To be able to do this, Qiao Jin's power was beyond her imagination. After all, she was the leader of the spirit group. No matter how fast she was, she had to be quick-witted. The spirit seed had always been something they didn't understand. It represented the ability of a spiritual reader, but others didn't have the ability to steal it. If Qiao Jin had this ability, why did he use the spirit seed? Furthermore, she had once said that the spirit group's headquarters might not have personally dealt with the demonized spiritualist when they brought the demonized spiritualist back. Yarrow felt that there was a very serious premeditated plan behind this. Unfortunately, with her current status, she couldn't interfere with the headquarters at all. Yu Saik's spirit seed was gone again. Everyone in the group was speechless. Even if there were people who were suspicious, they didn't even see Qiao Jin's shadow this time. In the face of the headquarters personnel who came to receive them, they couldn't explain themselves. This is the third time. Yu Xie was parachuted into this unit, so he didn't understand what was going on. However, Yu Sai was the third person he had dealt with without a spirit seed. The first time, the headquarters had sent him over because they were suspicious. The second and third time, he didn't even know what was going on. The people he caught just didn't have a spirit seed. Without a spirit seed, how could he possess abilities? When they captured Yu Sai, she must have had a spirit seed. Why did the spirit seed disappear after she was captured? Not to mention the headquarters, even Yu Xie himself suspected that there was something wrong with Yarrow's group. Yi Shuadai couldn't stand his anger. It's useless even if you're angry. How would we know where the spirit seed went? Weren't you there the whole time? If they had this ability, why would they still be members of the team? Yu Xie's face stiffened. He looked at Yarrow, but Yarrow just turned her head and said coldly, "We can only let the headquarters investigate." In other words, it was useless to ask her. Even if she knew, she couldn't say it out loud. Qiao Jin had only told Yarrow about the spirit seed. In the group, Yi Shuadai and Hua Yangming had seen strange situations and were suspicious of Qiao Jin. However, the three of them at least maintained a certain level of consensus. Qiao Jin might not be someone they could afford to offend, so there was no need to create more trouble and say it out loud. Anyway, they didn't do it. If there was trouble, it should be the headquarters. As for Cao Ikai, he was even more confused. Chapter 228. Yu Saik was handed over to the spirit group headquarters that night. After investigation, they found that there was indeed no spirit seed. The spirit group felt uneasy. There was an inexplicable existence that could absorb the spirit seed of a demonized spiritualist and use an ability that they didn't know. This was already the third time. The spirit group couldn't let it go. Zhongli Shiyu and Zhongli Peining once again appeared in Qiao Jin's living area. The only clue they had was that the demonized spiritualist had come into contact with Qiao Jin the previous 2 times. This time, Qiao Jin didn't appear, but she appeared in a nearby coffee shop. In other words, she was the only person other than the members of the spirit group present in the area where the demonized spiritualist appeared 3 times. Moreover, she was also a spiritualist. Qiao Jin could erase the traces of the surveillance video, but she didn't do so. Because she didn't care whether the spirit group suspected her or not. What was the use of suspicion? They could only suspect. She erased the traces of Song Yanqing's appearance. After all, she was already exposed on the surface. Song Yanqing could stay in the dark as a trump card. The spirit group realized that Qiao Jin was a girl with a big problem. This time, they directly sent Zhongli Shiyu and Zhongli Peining over. Transfer schools. Just as they were approaching Qiao Jin. Even though the school was about to be on holiday, Qiao Jin, who was now a second-year student, still had 2 years of school. As long as they were in the same school, it would be easy to investigate. Qiao Jin wasn't surprised when she saw Zhongli Peining appear in the school. She just had a faint smile. Zhongli Peining looked delicate and weak. Her surname was special, and she was in the same German department as Qiao Jin. Her brother was in the finance department next door. When she saw Qiao Jin, Zhongli Peining revealed a friendly smile. "Qiao Jin, we meet again." Qiao Jin smiled. "There aren't enough people monitoring, so now you have to do it personally." The Zhongli family had quite a bit of prestige in the spirit group. Sending these two siblings to investigate Qiao Jin meant that they valued Qiao Jin very much. Zhongli Peinying's smile froze. In any case, they were in school. She thought that Qiao Jin would put on an act, but she directly said it, making Zhongli Peinying feel a little embarrassed. It's not that. It's just a problem with my studies. I transferred here normally. You don't have to think too much. Even if it was the truth, he couldn't say it out loud. How disgusting would that be? Qiao Jin only nodded. That's true. After all, this school is not bad. The German department is a good major. In fact, there were several members of the spirit group in this school, but without this identity, they were like Yishuadai. They had to live their own lives, and different members had different missions. There were exposed members of the spirit team, and there were also spiritual readers who were not exposed. When Zhongli Peinying saw that Qiao Jin was about to leave after speaking, she felt a little timid. She wasn't a bad person, but the spirit group was suspicious of Qiao Jin. She had always grown up under the protection of her brother. In the face of Qiao Jin's direct attack, she was at a loss. She wanted to call out to Qiao Jin, but she didn't have a proper reason. She felt a little frustrated. She knew that it was a little impossible for her to get close to Qiao Jin by being his friend. After school in the afternoon, the school announced that there would be a summer vacation activity. A group of outstanding students would be specially selected. Of course, they could also sign up themselves. This activity didn't seem to be anything special, and it didn't have much to do with ordinary students. However, Musilian and Musichu had both signed up. This was because Qiao Jin had signed up. Chapter 229. It was a little surprising that Qiao Jin signed up. Musilian and Musichu felt that she was not the kind of person who would like to go abroad. It was not an understanding, but an intuition. However, Qiao Jin signed up this time. They only found out that Qiao Jin signed up when she came back and told Xiao Fei that night. Xiao Fei was quite happy. Summer activities? Going abroad? That's good. You don't have to stay at home all the time. You can go abroad to broaden your horizons. It's quite fun overseas. Do you want Mom to go with you? Qiao Jin: No, I want to go with the school. Xiao Fei: Sob sob sob, my daughter is cold and heartless. Musilian was a little surprised. Why did you sign up for a summer activity? That activity is actually not very useful. It's just for fun. Although there was an exchange activity, it was just going to take a look at the school. There were very few basic exchange activities. The purpose of this activity was to give students who were not very well off a chance to apply for an exchange because all the travel expenses were paid by the school. Logically speaking, Qiao Jin was not on this list now. Xiao Fei did not quite agree. Since Jin wants to go abroad to have fun, she can go too. Your younger sister has never been abroad in her entire life. In the past, Xiao Fei did not have the means to let Qiao Jin go abroad. Now that she had the means, she definitely wanted Qiao Jin to go abroad to broaden her horizons. Musichu also looked up at Qiao Jin. If you want to go abroad, we can go together during the summer vacation. The school is going to the US this time. There's actually not much to go. If you want to go, you can go to other countries in Europe. There are many scenic spots. Qiao Jin said lightly, No, I can still learn if I go with the school. I'm doing it for my studies. Musilian: It was fine when she did not say it. Now that she said it, he suddenly did not believe it. I see. Xiao Fei was supportive, but Mu Zhenming suddenly said, In that case, don't go alone. Qi Lian and Qi Chu will accompany you. With her two brothers around, her safety was at least somewhat guaranteed. Qiao Jin nodded, indicating that it didn't matter. Musilian opened his mouth as if to say something, but he didn't say anything. Forget it, I'll just go. There was only a month left until the summer vacation. Qiao Jin wanted to go on this trip not because of anything else, but because she felt that she would encounter something beneficial during this school trip. As soon as the trip came out, this feeling came out. Qiao Jin couldn't figure out exactly how beneficial it would be, because Qiao Jin was always rather vague about his own matters. But since she had this intuition, of course she would go. Her instincts were never wrong. After the Zhong siblings knew that Qiao Jin would be participating in this foreign event, they immediately signed up and wanted to go with him. Right now, Qiao Jin was under the surveillance of the spirit group. Even if they couldn't find anything wrong with her, it didn't mean that they wouldn't pay attention to her abnormal behavior. It was quite abnormal to go abroad now. After the investigation on Yu Saik came out, He Yarrow also told Qiao Jin about it. This time, it was Qiao Jin's special request. Although He Yarrow was a little strange, her matters weren't a secret, so she didn't hide it. Moreover, there didn't seem to be any harm in telling someone like Qiao Jin. After seeing the reason for Yu Saik's awakening, Qiao Jin raised his eyebrows. Because it seemed like she had contributed to it. Yu Saik's spirit seed had disappeared, and she still had to be dealt with. Moreover, she killed her own cousin, so she couldn't live anymore. Chapter 230. Qiao Jin still had an impression of Yu Saik. Even if she didn't, when she saw Yu Saik, she was able to recognize her because of her karma. Yu Saik was a weirdo. She was born in a wealthy family and was very lucky. However, her family spoiled her, causing her to have a supercilious personality. She had to get what she liked. If she couldn't get it, she would think of ways to destroy it. If she didn't like it, she would wantonly slander it. Qiao Jin was targeted by her in this way. She liked musicchu. Of course, with her identity, she couldn't come into contact with musicchu. She was just secretly in love with a girl in musicchu who was especially deformed. Logically speaking, a person like her shouldn't be able to awaken as a spiritual reader. After she was unlucky because of Qiao Jin's karma, she felt that the heavens were against her. Due to her bad mood, she had a strong feeling of disliking everything. Yu Saik didn't awaken through normal means. She should have been deliberately stimulated as a spiritual reader. However, the disadvantage of this ability was that one would definitely be demonized. The consequence of demonization was to prevent the evil in one's heart from growing infinitely. Even if one could barely control it in the beginning, they would become more and more blind and cruel later on. They would only live for evil. This was why Qiao Jin dared to seize the spirit seed. It was because they weren't protected by karma at all. Just like Zhao Chunfeng, even if they were demonized because they killed people, they would become more and more blind later on. Revenge wasn't their goal, but only the beginning of their demonization. If they could be controlled, they wouldn't be demonized. This was because there were spiritual readers with tragic backgrounds who could hide and even work for the spirit group. This was the difference. He Yarrow and the others definitely didn't know the difference between deliberately stimulating one's ability. According to their words, Yu Saik didn't have any points to awaken as a spiritual reader. They said that she was tragic, but she was just a little unlucky recently and came from a good family. It was like her awakening was inexplicable. According to the information about Yu Saik that He Yarrow had given him, Qiao Jin was able to figure out the cause and effect as soon as he set up the formation. Someone saw that Yu Saik's body was stained with karma, so they deliberately activated their abilities, causing Yu Saik to demonize and even cast an amplification array on her. Interestingly, the other party's ability was not necessarily as strong as Qiao Jin's, but he was very good at hiding himself. She could not figure out who the other party was. In this world, other than her sworn enemy, she couldn't think of anyone else. Of course, in these 10,000 years, it was possible that her sworn enemy had taught an even more outstanding array master, but at most, he could only hide it from her. It was just like how a sworn enemy wasn't sure if he would survive. Karma was a very mysterious thing. Ordinary people could not come into contact with it at all. Even our Zhu of the Feng family could only see some clues at most. It was impossible to directly see a person's karma. The other party's level wasn't low. It was just that it was hidden very well. The fact that he had set up a formation against Yu Saik meant that there was a high chance that this person was in the imperial capital. Her eyes drooped slightly. The capital, there seemed to be a hint of a smile in his murmur. It seemed that she was too high profile and caused others to feel uneasy. Well, therefore, she needed to be more high profile. This kind of thing happened a few more times. Only then would the rat hiding behind the scenes reveal his true face. Anyway, she was bored to death. Chapter 231. When she went downstairs early in the morning, Xiao Jin saw Musilian staring at the table in a daze. Musichu saw Xiao Jin and said lightly, "Good morning." Xiao Jin smiled and replied, "Good morning, Xiao Jin." Musichu, who was used to her not calling him brother, nodded indifferently. Musilian didn't say anything. He was still in a daze. Musichu opened his eyes and asked, "What time did you sleep last night?" He woke up at 3 in the morning and glanced at his phone. Musilian was still fighting in the game. It was only 8 in the morning and he was already awake. He didn't know if he was asleep or not. Musilian thought for a moment and suddenly propped himself up and said, "I think I've been very strange recently. I used to have a headache when I woke up early in the morning after staying up late. Recently, I've been sleeping in the early hours of the morning. When Mom woke me up in the morning, I didn't have any reaction. He was quite energetic the whole day. When did his physical fitness become so high? Isn't this good?" Musichu sneered. "You're waiting for your body to collapse before you think it's normal?" He was the little prince of the night scene. If he didn't stay up late, how could he live up to his name? Musilian was a little confused. "No, I just feel strange." Xiao Jin sat down and began to eat breakfast. The servant served her a bowl of delicious meat porridge. She took a sip and said slowly, "Think positively of Qi Lian. Maybe it's the final radiance of a setting sun. The final struggle of the body before it collapsed." Musilian, he slammed the table. "Do you know how to talk?" Xiao Jin, "No." Musilian, "Fuck." Musilian didn't have time to argue with Xiao Jin. Instead, he sighed. "Brother, to be honest, I really admire Grandpa. Last night, he went out to play chess with friends and came back at 2 in the morning. This morning, I heard from Mom that he woke up at 7. Don't they say that the elderly are healthy? Don't you think he's better than me? How could he be so strong at such an advanced age? Isn't he also high blood pressure? Isn't he afraid?" Musichu, Grandpa's health was indeed amazing. Although he had high blood pressure, he didn't look like he had high blood pressure. Every day, he might not necessarily go to bed earlier than Musilian, and he could even wake up earlier than the rooster. The key was that his body was still quite energetic. In fact, there was something Musichu didn't say. His perception was sharper. Recently, he felt that even the servants in the house were more energetic than before. Even if they had to wake up early to prepare breakfast for them, they were still in high spirits, unlike the decadent look they had in the past. He knew that he usually studied until late at night, especially with his father's health. He had more things to learn. Every night, he would read for a long time. If it was in the past, he would not be able to take it. Recently, he would only go to bed in the wee hours after reading. There was nothing wrong with waking up early. Just like what Musilian had said, his mental state was abnormal. Of course, neither of them knew the reason. Xiao Jin had set up a big array in the Mu family to nourish himself. For ordinary people, it was equivalent to taking advantage of a long-term health care. No matter how hard they worked, their bodies would get better and better under the nourishment of the array. Naturally, it was not a problem for them to be energetic. Even the servants who worked here had received great benefits. This was the limit of health that others pursued. Otherwise, with Musilian's practice of getting up early in the wee hours of the morning, how could he be in good spirits? It was already good enough that he didn't die suddenly. Of course, Xiao Jin didn't say anything. She kept the credit to herself. Chapter 232. Mu Xiangshan went out early in the morning and came back from a walk looking quite relaxed. Then, he saw Xiao Jin leaving after eating. He glanced and snorted coldly. Lazy bum. He only woke up when it was almost noon. In fact, it was only 9 in the morning. Xiao Jin was about to go to school after eating. When he saw Mu Xiangshan, Xiao Jin was all smiles. Facing the morning light, he looked fresh and lively. He even called out, "Old master." His tone was gentle and clear. Although she didn't call him Grandpa, calling him Grandpa was enough to make him sing and weep. Mu Xiangshan's entire family was shocked. He looked at Xiao Jin's back view as he left. Coincidentally, A servant came over to water the flowers in the garden. Mu Xiangshan asked, "Is there something wrong with his head?" Servant, how could he dare to say anything? Qiao Jin arrived at school and handed in the registration form for the activity. In the past, such activities were rare except for a group of outstanding students who came from good schools and ordinary families. Because the places to go were fixed, it didn't attract the interest of most students. This time, Qiao Jin signed up, Musilian and Musichu also signed up. Fortunately, they signed up late. If the news of them signing up also spread, there would probably be a lot of people fighting for the spots. There were only about 30 spots this time, and they were all arranged. However, when they found out that Musilian and Musichu were going to participate in the summer vacation activity, most of the girls in school who just got the news almost had their intestines turned green. If they knew that the handsome twins were going to go, they would have signed up. By the time they asked the teachers, the spots were already gone. The students who went became the targets of envy, jealousy, and hatred. There were even people who came up with a strange idea and spent more money to buy the spots of other students. But even if the students who went agreed, the spots weren't fixed. Once the spots were empty, the teachers might consider other applicants. The gains didn't make up for the losses. "Master, please come this way. Look, this is our school's language major. This side is German, and that side is Arabic." During the lunch break, Qiao Jin took a stroll after finishing his lunch. He saw the vice principal leading a middle-aged man in a baseball shirt and a baseball cap over to him. The man had a benevolent look. Although he was wearing a baseball cap, the exposed forehead and back of his head revealed the fact that he might be bald. The vice principal and principal both held important positions. Usually, they would not walk around in the school. Although they appeared natural, Qiao Jin could tell at a glance that the middle-aged man was not simple. It was lunchtime, and there were not many people in the building. Qiao Jin was the only one walking on the road. He did not expect to bump into a student, and the vice principal coughed. When the middle-aged man saw Qiao Jin, he revealed an amiable smile. He put his palms together and bowed slightly to Qiao Jin. The vice principal was a little embarrassed and whispered, "Master, we have an agreement." The principal was worried that there might be a problem with the feng shui. He asked someone to pull some strings and found a master who was said to have real skills to come to the school to take a look. Because he was worried that the students would be suspicious, he asked the master to disguise himself as an ordinary person and come to the school to see what was wrong with the feng shui. The principal asked the vice principal to lead the way. It would be too high profile if they appeared together, so he only asked the vice principal to lead the way. Now that they bumped into a student who had seen someone with their palms together. Chapter 233. The master smiled and shook his head. "It's okay." Qiao Jin walked closer and didn't show any curiosity. She simply said, "Hello, vice principal." He didn't even wait for the vice principal to wave his hand and walked away. The vice principal wiped the sweat on his forehead and asked, "Master, did you see anything?" The master smiled. "There's nothing wrong with the school's feng shui." Vice principal, that's hard to say. Dozens of Moonlight's cell phones have been reported missing. The master, usually, it's a thief. Vice principal, there were surveillance cameras everywhere in the school. It wasn't just one person who lost their phones, but a large group. Which thief was so awesome? The master looked around. Hasn't this kind of thing been decreasing recently? Even if there was a problem, it's almost over now. The post about Qiao Jin was deleted. No one said anything bad about her, so the karma was almost over. It wasn't a big deal for the previous students to lose some money. The vice principal felt that the master's words were very unreliable. They spent hundreds of thousands to invite him. Although the vice principal didn't know what was wrong with the principal, he still felt sorry for the money. The master glanced at the vice principal and knew that he didn't believe him. He said, "If you don't believe me, you can see later." The vice principal had no choice but to agree. After all, the master was a master and he wasn't. No one knew that the school wanted to invite a master to check the school's feng shui. Qiao Jin just didn't expect him to appear in the school. When she came to this world, she felt that there were a few powerful forces. They could be considered as array masters in this world who could barely catch her eye. After Lin Sai's family matters, she asked Lin Sai to go to a place called Jingchang Temple to burn incense and pray for a jade pendant. Even if she hadn't seen him before, she now knew that the middle-aged man was the array master of Jingchang Temple. He looked kind and his karma was complete. He was a kind person. If it wasn't the wrong time, she wouldn't mind talking to this person. Since the school could invite him, it seemed that there were still many channels to investigate. After class, on the way home, Xiao Jin's cat treasure shop had 2 more customers. This time, they were attracted by Jiang Hongbin's recommendation. However, after all, there were tens of thousands of top-notch people, and Xiao Jin would definitely encounter them. Anonymous buyer XX, you're not allowed to recommend this shop for free. I think your shop is really overcharging. I can't believe someone would buy such an expensive item. Is 600 renminbi considered a bad fortune? Are you crazy? Anonymous buyer XX, are you accurate? What's the latest lottery number? Tell me. I'll believe you if you win. Xiao Jin rolled his eyes and replied, this is just an ordinary top-notch buyer. Today, dear, sure, as long as you can pay the price. You are not destined to win the lottery, so it is not recommended to consult the lottery numbers. Of course, winning the lottery depended on fate, but it wouldn't be good to say it out loud. The buyer was excited. Anonymous buyer XX, hey, what do you mean? I'm not fated to win the lottery. How did you know? A fortune-telling shop like yours is full of nonsense, isn't it? Isn't it just to see if your prediction is accurate? If you don't tell me, how would I know if your prediction is accurate? Anonymous buyer XX, if I didn't see the recommendation from the shop next door, I wouldn't have come to you. You charge so much and so much. Are your comments all fake? Chapter 234. Xiao Jin really didn't like to deal with such people, but since everyone was a customer, today, kiss, you really can't. You're not destined to win the lottery. You can't even win 5 yuan. This person was a fan of lottery tickets, but his luck was extremely bad. He was not destined to win the lottery at all. So far, he had not even won 5 yuan. 2 yuan for a lottery ticket, this was heart-wrenching. Anonymous buyer XX, your shop is a scam shop. How dare you open such an expensive shop if you don't have any skills? Anonymous buyer XX, and you said that I'm not destined to win the lottery. Hihi, are you that accurate? Xiao Jin didn't plan to reply. She opened the shop to earn some pocket money. Sooner or later, she would have a chance to become famous. This troublemaker couldn't do anything to her. She didn't reply, but the other party seemed to be quite irritable. He kept sending messages to complain. In the end, he even said that he would take screenshots and post them on the internet to let everyone see what Xiao Jin's shop was like. Today, kiss, all the best. Screenshot it and post it on Weibo and the forum. Anonymous buyer XX, Anonymous buyer XX, are you provoking me? Is this the attitude of your customer service? Anonymous buyer XX, the tone of a fortune-telling shop is really impressive. Just you wait. I'll post it on Weibo for you. Xiao Jin waited. The other party was a middle-aged man who had nothing to do. He was old and still looked for fortune-tellers on the internet all day. He was the kind of unrealistic person who dreamed of winning the lottery and getting rich one day. However, the Weibo matter made Xiao Jin have a new idea. She would occasionally look at Weibo. Originally, she had a Weibo account, but she was more casual about it and never cared about it. Since the other party wanted to post on Weibo, why not prepare early? In the future, when the business was good, she might not be able to read it. The main thing was that there were too many people, and it was impossible to read every trivial thing. She might as well pick lucky users from Weibo. Moreover, there were many such famous people on Weibo now. Xiao Jin changed her Weibo name to "You're here to get your fortune told today." Well, it was a username on Weibo and Marobao. It was simple and easy to remember. After this troublemaker, another one came. The other party also inquired about the price, but didn't take it into consideration because the price was too high. After all, Jiang Hongbin's fortune-telling shop only charged 10 renminbi. This shop charged 100 renminbi, and they were not sure if it was accurate. They would hesitate. Of course, his attitude was much better. He asked if he could lower the price, so be it. He was much better than the man from before. The middle-aged man who had consulted her before was not only a failure, but also a keyboard warrior who liked to scold people. This time, he was angered by Qiao Jin's attitude and thought that it was just a fortune-telling shop. If he exposed it on Weibo and saw the other party's attitude, coupled with complaints, Maro Bao would definitely force the other party to close down. Anyway, even if he was unhappy, he would not let this kind of customer service be happy. Thinking of this, he quickly compiled a screenshot of his chat history and submitted it to a Big V account with 5 million fans, the world's greatest reward. In order to deliberately make this shop famous, he did not hide the shop's name. He even took screenshots of the information of several other buyers, indicating that this shop had made a few more orders. He also said that only a crazy person would spend a few hundred yuan to find this kind of fortune-telling shop. Let everyone avoid the lightning. After the submission was posted, he came back an hour later and saw a reply from the Big V account. World's greatest reward V. Okay, I'll post it tonight. Chapter 235. Jiao Ju was very pleased with himself. He was the fortune teller on the internet. Since this fortune-telling shop made customers like him unhappy, it would become famous. Of course, it was malicious. Cyberbullying was very scary now. He obviously knew the consequences of his message, but he didn't care. At most, he would shut down this cat treasure shop. When Qiao Jin got home, she saw Mu Xiangshan, who was very shocked because she called him grandpa in the morning. At this moment, he looked at her with a deep gaze, probably wondering if Qiao Jin had suffered some kind of shock today. Mu Zhenming still didn't come back for dinner because of work. Everyone was eating happily at the dinner table when Mu Xiangshan suddenly said, Ji Ping'an's eldest son's wife has returned to the country. I heard that she'll be here tonight. Everyone, Qiao Fei's body stiffened. She knew about it, but she had never said it out loud. She didn't even know that she had said it out loud when she was drunk. Therefore, she always thought that she was the only one in the family who knew about this. Now that she heard Mu Xiangshan mention it, she subconsciously felt that this topic wasn't suitable for Qiao Jin to hear. Mu Zillion and Mu Zichu glanced at each other, hiding their thoughts. Mu Zillion asked, Didn't you say that this auntie only comes back during the holidays? Why did she come back at this time? Seems like something happened at home, so she came back for a short time, Mu Xiangshan said casually, and Qiao Jin didn't seem to have any special reaction. Qiao Fei was relieved and hurriedly changed the topic. Dad, did your high blood pressure relapse recently? You have to take care of your body. I saw you go out last night and come back so late. Mu Xiangshan glared at her. You're touching my sore spot. Do you want me to have a relapse even if I didn't? Qiao Fei felt wronged. Mu Zillion said, Grandpa, Mom is just concerned about you. Don't be like this all the time. You're like a contrarian. Mu Xiangshan, you little brat, say that again. However, his casual remark was still diverted from the topic. Qiao Fei was relieved to see that no one mentioned the matter of the Ji family's wife. After the meal, she felt a little uneasy. Didn't the other party say that he would only come back during the holidays? She was a little worried that he would come back at this juncture. However, she didn't have any contact with this woman from the Ji family. Especially now that she was related to Qiao Jin, Qiao Fei didn't want to see her. She was afraid that she would see a face that resembled Qiao Jin the moment she saw him. Thus, she found an opportunity to go to Qiao Jin's room. When she saw Qiao Jin, before she could say anything, Qiao Jin said calmly, Fei, don't think too much about it. I already said that we won't acknowledge each other. Qiao Fei was still a little worried. I'm not worried about whether you'll acknowledge each other. Didn't you say that she used the child exchange to enter the Ji family? I'm afraid that if she finds out about your existence, she might do something to you. It was said that even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. However, a woman who could abandon her own daughter for a boy and marry into a rich family after being a mistress. Even if Qiao Fei didn't understand, she should know that she wasn't someone to be trifled with. She had seen many people by Mu Zhenming's side. How could she enter the Ji family with such an awkward identity without any tricks? Chapter 236. Qiao Fei was concerned about him. Although Qiao Jin wasn't too worried, he still smiled and comforted her. Don't think too much. She doesn't have that ability. Her casual words showed how casual she was. Indeed, so what if she knew about her existence? She did have the ability to enter the Ji family. No matter what methods she used, Qiao Jin was her biological daughter. If she pretended not to know her when she saw her, Qiao Jin wouldn't find trouble with her. But if she did something, however, that was the worst way to think. The other party might not do that. However, the probability of not wanting Qiao Jin to be known by the Ji family was 100%. Qiao Fei was a little confused. She hasn't lived in the Ji family for so many years. Is it because her identity is still a little awkward, so she has to go abroad? It was better for her to go abroad. So many people wouldn't know about it. This way, even if someone saw Qiao Jin, they wouldn't be able to recall any similarities with her. After all, their identities were worlds apart. Just like when Ji Pinggan saw Qiao Jin, he didn't think that Qiao Jin was similar to his son and daughter-in-law. Qiao Jin nodded. That might be the reason. The Ji family was a big family, and it was the kind of family that paid special attention to identity. It was already a miracle that she could be promoted. It seemed a little difficult to ask the Ji family to treat her as an equal. The other party hadn't been in the country for so many years because she wasn't welcome in the Ji family. Qiao Fei was afraid that her words would make Qiao Jin think too much. Mom doesn't mean anything by saying this. I won't have any opinions about you because of your mother's identity. You're innocent, so Mom just wants to protect you. I've already made a mistake once. I don't want to make the same mistake again. The drug incident was her negligence. This time, she would never let Qiao Jin get hurt under her nose. Qiao Jin shook his head and sighed. Fei, I've said it before. You really don't owe me anything. You don't have to feel guilty. If you feel worried, I won't let the things you're worried about happen. Don't worry, the Ji family is busy right now. They don't have time to pay attention to me. She had raised Qiao Jin for 20 years, so there was karma between them. However, there was one thing that she did not say. It was because the Ji family wasn't peaceful now. This biological mother's son was fighting for power in the Ji family. Many people wanted to find Ji Chua's weakness and cause trouble for his son. If people found out about Qiao Jin's existence at this juncture, she could predict the future, but she could not predict herself. It was hard to say whether the Ji family would notice her or not. Qiao Fei nodded. That's true. She thought about what Mu Xiangshan said in the living room and suddenly asked cautiously, your grandpa and the others don't know about this yet. Should I find a time to tell them? But will they believe me? Qiao Jin said, you don't have to. They already know. You said it yourself when you were drunk at Fengfei his birthday party. Qiao Fei. She was shocked. She never thought that she would expose such an important secret. Qiao Fei was shocked and scared. Fake wine is harmful. Fake wine is harmful. Qiao Jin, how could there be fake wine at that kind of event? Qiao Fei must have drunk something wrong. Qiao Fei did not know how bad her alcohol tolerance was. Chapter 237. Qiao Fei was angry that he had blurted out such an important thing when he was drunk. What made her even angrier was that Mu Zhenming actually didn't tell her after he found out. He had left her alone in fear. For a moment, she didn't want to ask Qiao Jin. Of course, it was more reliable to discuss this with Mu Zhenming. As for Qiao Jin, after Qiao Fei left, he saw the news on Weibo. Karma came one after another, and it was impossible for her not to sense it. The world's greatest rewards user posted a screenshot of Gao Ju's complaint against Qiao Jin and even exposed the name of the store. Now, a small number of comments were that the author was also a weirdo, but they all agreed on one point. The fortune-telling shop must be lying. Moreover, the customer service in the screenshot said that this person was not destined to win the lottery. Anyone who saw this would be angry, but some people would never win the lottery. It was not hard to guess. They couldn't tell what this customer service employee was capable of. His attitude was also blunt. The netizens below expressed that they had learned something new. Although they thought that the author was also a weirdo, it didn't stop them from going to Xiao Jin's shop for sightseeing. One of the advantages of Marobao's website was that people who hadn't bought anything before couldn't comment. Therefore, a group of idle netizens came to the online store to harass Xiao Jin. Some came with a thirst for knowledge, while others came to ridicule him. Your fortune-telling is so accurate that you can even tell that people won't be able to win the lottery in their lifetime. Why don't you help me read if I can win the lottery? What era is it now? You're still using fortune-telling to deceive people? If you're really good at fortune-telling, why would you open a cat treasure shop online? Of all the things you can sell, why do you have to sell such a scam? Do you have no hands or legs? Do you need to scam people? Such an expensive fortune-telling shop? Is the shop owner here? I'll place the order first. Can you help me calculate if I'll succeed in confessing to my idol tomorrow? If you don't agree, I'll complain about you. Most of the people reprimanded Xiao Jin for being a liar, but there were also people who maintained a realistic attitude. Whether it was accurate or not, he would only know after he placed the order. He wanted to see how capable this shop owner was. She completely ignored Xiao Jin, who came to scold her. One of the people who confessed to her Prince Charming to calculate his marriage waited for the other party to place the order before replying with a few simple words. Today, it will work. Anonymous buyer XX. Anonymous buyer XX. Ah, really? Although I don't know if what you said is accurate, I'm quite happy that you said so. Anonymous buyer XX. You don't even know who I'm going to confess to. How can you be so casual? After the other party replied, she realized that she didn't say anything. She only said that she would confess to her idol, and the shop owner replied that it would be successful. He was obviously trying to make her happy. Today, won't you know tomorrow if I succeed or not? Today, bring a box of tiramisu. He'll love it. Anonymous buyer XX. She was a little confused. She didn't know how Xiao Jin could make it sound so ridiculous. Her Prince Charming was a cold and aloof Prince Charming. He was very good at his job, and it was said that he hated sweets the most. Anonymous buyer XX. That's not very good. He's a grown man and hates sweets the most. Are you talking nonsense? Equals. Today, I'll say the same thing again. You'll only know if you try it yourself. Anonymous buyer XX. Do you mind if I take a screenshot of the chat history? If you don't allow it, I'll go to Weibo to check it out. Today, up to you. Among the people who came to Weibo for sightseeing, she was the only one who placed an order out of curiosity. Chapter 238. After all, it was just a complaint. The Weibo netizens who came for sightseeing wanted to report it, but they found that there was a very humane rule in the cat treasure shop. If you didn't buy the product, why would you report it? It wasn't that the buyers didn't have the right to report it directly. Although most people knew that the money could be refunded, 99 yuan was still expensive and they didn't want to spend it in vain. However, there were a few people who insisted on reporting it to the end. Plus, they also wanted to test Xiao Jin's fortune-telling skills. Instead, they placed orders and asked about some trivial things from Xiao Jin. The results were self-evident. It would be fine if it was about the future, but a few of them directly asked about their own situation. Even the information given was fake. After being exposed by Xiao Jin directly, they were horrified and didn't dare to do anything else. Just like Jiang Hongbin, they suspected that Xiao Jin was a hacker. After asking some basic questions, they found that Xiao Jin could tell the future. It was simply a scalp tingling. Fuck, isn't this too fucking scary? For a moment, the fortune-tellers were all shocked. Xiao Jin didn't care about them. Seeing that they couldn't say anything for a long time and that there were people who kept harassing her, she was too lazy to look at the news. She turned off her phone and went to rest peacefully. Early in the morning, Bai Guogua dressed up meticulously and prepared to confess to her colleague and boss. The other party was her group leader. He was talented and cold, and many people in the company were chasing after him. She was the kind of girl who liked to take the initiative. Since she liked him, she had to say it. She planned to confess today. Yesterday, she thought for a long time. When she was browsing Weibo, she found that a fortune-telling shop was being criticized. Since she had nothing to do, she went to have her fortune told. The shop owner said that her confession would be successful and she was quite happy. However, when the other party asked her to buy desserts, Bai Guogua hesitated. Her idol said that he didn't like desserts. Would it be counterproductive if she bought tiramisu? However, she still bought it. If her idol really liked desserts, it wouldn't be a problem even if she bought tiramisu, right? Of course, if he didn't like it, it would be useless to buy anything. Bai Guogua took advantage of the time when there was no one to disturb her at work in the afternoon. She took out the tiramisu and mustered up the courage to confess to him. Who would have thought that her idol would actually agree? It turned out that he had liked her for a while. When he saw Bai Guogua bring out the tiramisu, he chuckled and said, "How did you know that I like tiramisu? Tell me, how did you find out? You're really working hard in order to confess successfully." Bai Guogua was dumbfounded. It was one thing to be overjoyed by her successful confession, but she really didn't know that her idol actually liked tiramisu. She subconsciously said, "Didn't you say that you don't like sweets?" I just bought it casually." Prince Charming looked at her and smiled again. "It's a coincidence. Actually, I like sweets. It's just that it's not appropriate for a big man to eat sweets. You little girl will cover up my hobby." Bai Guogua. Not only did she fall into ecstasy, she also recalled a terrifying matter. During the fortune-telling last night, she only said that her surname was Bai and her date of birth. She didn't even say who she was going to confess to. Not only did the shop owner know that she would succeed, but he was also the one who suggested bringing her the tiramisu. Even if someone had set this up, wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Bai Guogua came to her senses. She had met a god. If this wasn't a god, she wouldn't believe it. Chapter 239. It was the first time in Bai Guogua's life that she had met such an accurate fortune-teller. It was much better than the horoscope divination and tarot card divination that she had found on the internet before. After her successful confession, she went on a date with her idol in the afternoon. She calmed herself down halfway and then posted a screenshot on her Weibo, saying that she had met a very accurate fortune-teller. It was ridiculous. She was just an ordinary Weibo user, and not many people read her posts. Therefore, Bai Guogua went to the previous post to give feedback. "The owner is really awesome. It's not a joke." Attached is a screenshot of the feedback. "So far, my confession was successful, and my idol really likes tiramisu. However, not many people believed it. It would be more believable if she said that her confession was successful, but adding tiramisu was not convincing. Oh, she was really a god. She even knew what people ate. How could it be so ridiculous? She had only revealed her personal information and did not even mention the person she was going to confess to. How could she know that the person she was going to confess to liked tiramisu? The netizens did not believe it, and some people even pushed Bai Guogua's comments to the top of Weibo. Trending comments meant that after people saw this Weibo post, they would continuously see this comment when they looked at the comments. Comments could also be replied to, which meant that it was a building within a building. Bai Guogua could feel her phone vibrating non-stop because someone was constantly replying to her with a @ Of course, most people said that she was ridiculous and that this kind of fortune-telling was not credible at all. Bai Guogua was probably paid to do it. Bai Guogua thought that if a fortune-telling shop hired someone to do it, wouldn't it be exposed instantly? Some people even scolded her immediately. Some people even said that she deserved to die because of how much money she had received. This made Bai Guogua's good mood disappear. She was just telling the truth. Even if they did not believe her, why did they have to scold her? However, no matter how they scolded, Xiao Jin's fortune-telling shop would not be affected. They could not directly report it. Even if they went to the customer service of the cat treasure shop would directly say that the shop did not violate any rules. If there were no buyers who reported it, the shop could not be closed based on other people's reports. As for the customers who had originally paid to cause trouble, after Qiao Jin's fortune-telling, they didn't even dare to fart. There were also 2 people who hesitantly commented that the shop owner might be a real master, but like Bai Guoguo, they didn't dare to reply and could only delete their comments. This was just a small interlude in the daily quarrels on Weibo. Usually, such things were common in various circles. There was only one group of people who refused to let go. Seeing that there was no response from the cat treasure shop and Qiao Jin did not reply to their private messages, they followed the clues and found Qiao Jin's Weibo. They left comments under her Weibo, telling her not to lie and that she would die a horrible death if she did. These people's comments did not affect Qiao Jin in the slightest. Let's not talk about whether they were lying or not. Some netizens' hostility was so great that it was understandable. It was fine to scold, but what was the point of cursing the other party's 18 generations of ancestors? Qiao Jin did not even look at the comments. As those people cursed, they discovered something even more ridiculous. Qiao Jin's fortune-telling shop had increased its price. She didn't raise the price. She just returned to the original price. Chapter 240. Her fortune-telling shop was already expensive. Now that she had restored the original price, it was basically 999 yuan per session. The people who scolded her were dumbfounded. How thick-skinned was she to raise the price? Jiang Hongbin, Bai Guoguo, and the others, who had done fortune-telling before, thought that this master's price increase was expected. Instead, they were glad that they had done it quickly. Especially Jiang Hongbin. If he hadn't detected it earlier, the blood clot in his head might have killed him. However, what was the use of scolding her? It was like an internet celebrity selling expensive products or a WeChat merchant selling things. Everyone knew that it was fake, but they couldn't stand the IQ tax. It was useless to report it. Qiao Jin was certainly not a fake. It was reasonable for her to restore the original price. Those people could scold her, but it didn't affect reality at all. She even posted a sentence on her Weibo. Today you also came to fortune-telling. As long as everyone is happy, I will only say one thing. I am not someone who can be scolded. The more you scold, the faster retribution will come. Indeed, she couldn't be scolded. Just like on the forum, small things would happen to those who spread rumors about her. Of course, it was just scolding Qiao Jin, a liar, and so on. Nothing would happen. It was just a small tongue. For example, directly asking Qiao Jin's family to die for lying and asking her to die early. If she didn't suffer retribution, how could she live up to the word keyboard warrior? As soon as Qiao Jin's Weibo post was posted, there were dozens of replies one after another. Of course, everyone didn't believe it. How many people who scolded others and couldn't stand it anymore and said that scolding others or online violence would suffer retribution really suffered retribution? Everyone never believed in these things. Some people even scolded even more happily when they saw the situation. Moreover, their words were so filthy that it really made people dumbfounded. Those who didn't know would think that Qiao Jin had killed his family. There were constantly people who came to ridicule and humiliate Qiao Jin's Weibo post. The Weibo of Qiao Jin, who was unknown, had hundreds of posts. It was only a few hundred posts. Compared to the popularity of most Weibo posts, it was still too little. Qiao Jin didn't care at the moment. The things on the internet couldn't affect reality. In reality, she still lived her life as usual. At this juncture, Lin Sai even looked for her. Missing isn't better than going. Master, they've gone too far with their scolding. I'm going out to clear your name. Today, why are you clarifying? If you clarify, you're going to expose yourself, and they're going to hunt you down. Today, you're just a customer. Those who scold me won't scold me for long. After a while, they'll delete their own comments. When Lin Sai Liao saw this sentence, he was slightly startled. Would he suffer retribution for scolding a master? Some people had indeed scolded her extremely harshly. She couldn't wait for those people to really suffer retribution. But when the master said that, Lin Sai Liao felt a little creeped out. A master was indeed a master. Even his methods were so impressive. She thought that Qiao Jin had done something, but in fact, Qiao Jin had done nothing. Moreover, The master was actually considerate of her and was afraid that she would be hunted down. She was somewhat grateful. In the Musilian residence, Musichu and Musilian found an excuse to visit the G residence. After all, they knew a few young people in the G family, so it was easy to find an excuse. When they returned and saw Qiao Jin, they were still a little confused. When Musilian saw Qiao Jin, he said straightforwardly, "I don't think that auntie from the G family looks very similar to you." It was precisely because they didn't look alike that they suspected that Qiao Jin had guessed wrongly. Actually, she had nothing to do with the G family. Moreover, Ji Qiue didn't look like Qiao Jin either. Chapter 241. Oh. Qiao Jin raised his eyebrows. "Did you see her?" Musilian nodded. Yes. Not only did they see Ji Qiue's wife, but they also saw Ji Fanjing, the child who swapped places with Qiao Jin. They actually knew Ji Fanjing, but he took a different path from them. He had been studying abroad since he was young, and he was indeed outstanding. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a place in the Ji family. It was just that they weren't familiar with each other. They hadn't seen each other for a few years. Not to mention, they hadn't seen each other a few times before, so they naturally didn't feel familiar. The Ji family also avoided Ji Fanjing's identity. Basically, it was rare to hear of anyone who got along well with Ji Fanjing. Musichu carefully looked at Qiao Jin's face and suddenly said, "Actually, it's a little similar, but the difference in temperament was too big." Qiao Jin now had a particularly elegant and exquisite face, and she had a special aura of an otherworldly person. Her biological mother was also very beautiful. It was because of her extreme beauty that Ji Qiue took a liking to her back then, and she even had the ability to become a mistress. All these years, because the Ji family had raised her well, it was just that compared to Qiao Jin, she had a tacky beauty. Even though their facial features were just a little bit similar, they were still distinguished by their temperaments. It was hard to imagine that there was a relationship between them. This was also the reason why Musilian didn't believe that they were really mother and daughter. Qiao Jin said, "Just because they don't look alike doesn't mean that they aren't related by blood. However, it's useless to argue about this. There's no point in seeing them." Musichu added, "Ji Fanjing looks very similar to Ji Qiue." Musilian curled his lips. "I don't like that kid. He looks scheming." Musichu, "In such a family, if he isn't scheming, how can he survive?" Musilian, "You're talking as if the Ji family is a fire pit. Grandfather Ji's family is quite good." Musichu looked at him deeply and didn't say anything. Qiao Jin asked, "Ji Fanjing is that boy's name?" Musichu nodded. "But it has nothing to do with you." He didn't want Qiao Jin to have anything to do with Ji Fan. Even if they didn't quite believe that Qiao Jin was related to the Ji family, Qiao Jin wouldn't say it for no reason. They were afraid that they were really related. Qiao Jin nodded and asked no more. She was indeed not very interested in the Ji family. The final exams were around the corner, and she was going to be a junior in the next semester. There were still activities during the summer vacation, so Qiao Jin was busy with these things. As for the surveillance of the spirit group, who cared? The situation on the internet was still slowly fermenting. Those who scolded her would not have no reaction, especially those who felt unwell the next day. Gaozhou was the first to bear the brunt. He was the one who first complained about Qiao Jin's shop, so he didn't take it seriously. Seeing that Qiao Jin's shop hadn't been closed down by complaints, he was a little dissatisfied. However, he still had to live his life in reality. That night, when he went out for dinner, he accidentally quarreled with someone. He was a coward in reality and didn't dare to cause trouble. He wanted to let it go, but in the heat of the moment, he scolded the other party, who knew that the other party had a bad temper and fought with Gaozhou after a few words. Even if Gaozhou resisted, he was beaten up badly. Both of them were sent to the hospital and then to the police station. The other party didn't agree to peace talks. After a round of inspection, Gaozhou lost 3,000 yuan. When he was paying the bill, he suddenly saw a message pop up on his phone. Today, 3,000 yuan, so pitiful. Chapter 242. Jiao Ju's scalp went numb. He wasn't unfamiliar with this name at all. He had just voted her shop into Weibo's best reward yesterday. She was still being scolded. He didn't take her seriously at all. Then, when he was paying, she suddenly popped up such a message and said that it was 3,000 yuan. Gao Ju couldn't help but tremble in fear. People were like this. They wouldn't know what despair was until they saw something really scary. He remembered something. She seemed to have posted something on Weibo, saying that those who scolded her would suffer retribution. His fight today was quite inexplicable. He didn't want to scold her, but he couldn't hold back at that time. Plus, the other party had a bad temper. He was the one who suffered the most. His wound was stitched up several times. It wasn't a big deal, but the loss was real. The police also said that he started the conflict, so the other party didn't have much to take responsibility for. 3,000 yuan was the limit of his basic savings. He was really unlucky. Gao Ju reacted quickly, but his brain circuit was still different from ordinary people. He trembled as he typed, "You found someone to beat me up. It was you." He definitely thought that the shop owner found someone to beat him up. But how could there be such a ridiculous thing? He went to the shop himself, and the person who beat him went in before him. Could it be that someone knew the future? "Today, dear, what are you talking about? I don't even know who you are." This sentence made Gao Ju's hair stand on end. He suddenly wanted to call the police and say that someone found someone to beat him up. This was intentional. It was intentional. However, when he raised his phone to show the police the chat history, the two sentences that Xiao Jin said had disappeared without a trace. The chat history stopped at the page where he threatened Xiao Jin. Gao Ju was dumbfounded. Was he hallucinating? The police laughed in disbelief. "What are you talking about? You went to a fortune-telling shop and didn't pay for it. Look at this chat history. No matter how you look at it, you're a little unreasonable. Now that you've been beaten up, you're still saying that someone found someone to beat you up. Did you see the surveillance video? We saw that you were the last one to enter. How accurate is this fortune teller to be able to predict that you would enter this shop?" Gao Ju panicked. "No, I really saw it. My medical bills cost 3,000. She sent me a message saying 3,000. If she didn't do it on purpose, how did she know that my medical bills were 3,000? The policeman felt that Gao Ju was unreasonable. "All right, it's not over yet. Hurry up and pay the fee. We still have to go back to the station to do an investigation report." "What fortune telling?" The police officer looked at his wound and wanted to say something, but stopped himself. He was most likely hallucinating after being hit. After all, 3,000 yuan was fatal to such a person. He would definitely think of ways to extort money from others. Instead of finding such a ridiculous excuse, he might as well find the person who hit him. Gao Ju was taken back to the police station for investigation with a blank face. After a round of examination, the other party did not accept the compromise. According to the condition of the wound, both of them were responsible for each other, especially for Gaozhou. Gao Ju said it was a conflict because he had a big mouth. Later on, when he saw that the other party's attitude was even fiercer than his, he was scared. In the end, it was settled privately, and the other party only paid 200 yuan. 3,000 yuan versus 200 yuan. Gao Ju was almost angered to death. His living expenses were all ruined. He didn't work and had no money. What was he going to do next? Chapter 243. Gao Ju's situation was the worst, but the others didn't fare any better. Over the next few days, the people who cursed under Xiao Jin's Weibo suffered backlash one after another. They started to be unlucky, but at first, they didn't feel that they were unlucky at all. It wasn't until they lost money and suffered losses that they realized what went wrong. They were just too unlucky. Then, when they saw Xiao Jin's words, they felt a chill down their spines. Gao Ju was the first to succumb. He sent another private message to the ultimate reward. "Sorry, it's all my fault. I was talking nonsense. I started it. Delete your Weibo. That master isn't a scammer. He didn't lie. The world's greatest reward replied to him with a Jiao panicked, but he had to say, it's true. Delete your Weibo. Otherwise, it won't be good for you. I just cursed this shop owner. In the end, I got into a fight and ended up in the hospital. I also lost money and was sent to the police station. The other party isn't responsible. She said that anyone who curses her will be unlucky. I didn't listen to her. The ultimate reward replied, it can't be that bad. You just happened to be unlucky. But Jiao Ju didn't dare to reply no matter what. The ultimate reward was just a Weibo post. It wasn't a big deal for this kind of submission. He was just an ordinary young man in his life. At this moment, after seeing Jiao Ju's reply, he secretly cursed him for being crazy. He got up and went to the water dispenser to get some water. He put the cup under the water dispenser and yawned. At this moment, he suddenly heard a strange sound. It sounded like something was breaking. He looked down and saw that there was a crack in the cup. In just a few seconds, the cup exploded with a bang. Fuck! He shouted and dodged in time. Fortunately, the broken pieces of the cup did not explode far away. Most of them were blocked by the water dispenser. There were cracks on the surface of the water dispenser, and the other pieces splashed to the side very quickly. They almost hit him. He stared at the broken cup and was stunned for a full 10 seconds before he reacted with fear. His scalp was numb and the back of his head was stiff and cold. Then, he seemed to realize something and immediately ran to his computer to read Jiao Ju's message several times. Fuck, it can't be that bad, right? I didn't scold anyone. He muttered to himself. He had only reposted the post, not scolding the person himself. Even if retribution were to befall him, it wouldn't be retribution, right? However, he then remembered that he was the one who posted the Weibo post. If he didn't post it, there wouldn't be so many people scolding the cat treasure shop owner. Even if he didn't believe it, he couldn't help but believe it. The cup had exploded for no reason. He was a little scared. He quickly found his Weibo and looked at the comments on that Weibo post. In fact, there were only a few thousand ordinary comments. It was far from the level of being extremely popular. There were a few new comments below. Brothers, don't cause trouble. This shop is really strange. There was another person who said that the shop was very effective, but the replies below all said that he was a scammer. Superb Reward sweated and quickly deleted this Weibo. Then, he clicked on the shop owner's Weibo and found something that made his eyeballs almost pop out. Several keyboard warriors, who were active on his Weibo and often complained about this and that with righteous indignation, apologized to the shop owner one after another. Moreover, the words were so sincere that it was obvious that he had written them himself. There was also an indescribable sense of panic. Chapter 244. Just as Xiao Jin said, those who found the source quickly deleted their posts and apologized. Those who knew the reason only deleted their posts and refused to apologize. These people would continue to be unlucky for a while. On the other hand, those who were afraid and apologized had peace after that. They didn't lose money, their items didn't break, and their bad luck was gone. This was too fucking strange. Not only that, but the spectacle of their apology also attracted the attention of passers-by. Those who scolded previously were watching. When they saw those who apologized, they sent private messages to ask about the situation and were shocked by the other party's reply. It's really strange. In this day and age, who doesn't bring their mother along when they scold others? I scolded just like that. Everything I bought these days has broken. I even quarreled with the people in the company and lost a few hundred yuan. The other things I bought from the cat treasure shop were all broken the moment they arrived. The dog at home barked when it saw me. This is too scary. I just posted an apology and the pet at home stopped barking. I really fucked the dog. I step on dog shit when I go out. Bird shit on me. My grandfather said that I've been very angry recently and asked if I've offended someone. Even if there's something wrong with this shop, I don't dare to say anything. This is too strange. Look at the few people who apologized. I'm not the only unlucky one. He said that I'll be unlucky if I scold him. This is too scary. Looking at these people's replies, some people were deep in thought. Those who didn't scold went to look at the few comments from buyers. They were all saying that the shop was super awesome and was a real master. Most importantly, even the top reward that was posted at the beginning was deleted. The hesitant passers-by entered the shop to take a look. They really couldn't afford the high price of 999 yuan. Of course, some people still didn't believe it. They felt that this might be a publicity stunt. Didn't they see the shop increasing the price after being in the limelight? However, they didn't dare to post anything openly. They were afraid that they would really meet a ghost. A few people hesitated and sent messages to Qiao Jin, saying that they wanted to have their fortunes told. Just like Qiao Jin had said, business was coming in one after another. After all, the person who scolded her apologized and didn't dare to say anything else. The fortune teller also did his best to praise her. Her peculiar appearance attracted some attention. The deleted Weibo post of the ultimate reward attracted the attention of other internet celebrities. Some of them were familiar with him and asked him why he deleted the post. It didn't affect anything. Shouldn't they keep it to earn more traffic? Could it really be a publicity stunt? Superb Reward replied directly, "Don't talk about it. That shop owner is really evil. I don't dare to provoke him. Of course, I'll delete the blog to keep myself safe." Hype. Do I have to have the ability to collaborate with him to create hype? Some people were gradually convinced, while others jumped out to court death. Some of the active fortune tellers on Weibo couldn't stand Qiao Jin's behavior anymore. Wasn't this just a publicity stunt? The appearance of an active Big V meant that they were snatching away their business. Everyone more or less relied on word of mouth to rise up. What was going on with the sudden appearance of a hyper? After all, Qiao Jin's fans on Weibo gradually increased by 10,000 as this incident spread. They were all active fans. Although most of them were anti-fans, they didn't dare to say anything. A fortune teller with hundreds of thousands of fans on Weibo jumped out and "You come today." Publicity stunt has always been shameful in the industry. If you have real talent, why don't we have a face-to-face PK divination? Chapter 245. This Qiao Jin's verified account was called Jade Pillar Diviner. She was a relatively unique minority who used the divination method passed down by her clan to perform divination. It was quite rare and had a certain degree of credibility. There were many people who sought her out for fortune-telling, as evidenced by her hundreds of thousands of fans. However, she wasn't very brilliant. Her fortune-telling methods were mainly targeted at fans with particularly unstable minds, and she was good at studying people's psychology. Coupled with a bit of fortune-telling, she could basically calculate people's needs clearly. Of course, because of this, she didn't dare to make it too difficult. Even if it was to be calculated, it would be vague and unclear. A fortune teller like her was mostly correct. For someone like Qiao Jin, who directly described the other party's situation in full detail, it was simply a terrifying existence, and no one would believe it. No one believed that she was really capable. They all thought that this was a premeditated hype, and the purpose was to hype up this fortune teller who suddenly appeared. Didn't they see the other party's shop increasing the price? It had already increased to 1,000 yuan per session. It must be known that these fortune tellers, who had been famous for a long time, only dared to charge a few hundred yuan per session. Not to mention that the other party had the so-called full package. At first glance, it was obvious that she was doing business. If she really had the ability, why didn't she just casually calculate a lottery number and win a grand prize of millions or tens of millions? Why did she need fortune-telling? Therefore, things like cause and effect were something that ordinary people couldn't come into contact with in their lifetime. Naturally, they couldn't understand the thoughts of people like Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin set Weibo to silent mode because many people would at her and privately message her. Qiao Jin found it annoying and turned it off. Only she would occasionally be interested and go on Weibo. Perhaps she would reply when she saw the news. She didn't look at Weibo at the moment, so she didn't know that someone had challenged her. Moreover, some things were much more lively in reality. When Mu Zhenming came back that night, it was especially rare for him to talk about work. Of course, this work matter was related to the Feng family. The Feng family had a batch of goods that was found to be in violation of regulations when they were sent back to China. The nature is a bit serious, and a group of people will probably be implicated. When Mu Zhenming mentioned this, Mu Xiangshan looked at him and was obviously a little surprised. What goods? Mu Zhenming said, they mistakenly caught a batch of wild animals under the first-class national protection. They thought that they were artificially bred, but in the end, they weren't. The main responsibility should be on the person who forged the certificate and sold this batch of goods to them. But because it was the Feng family head's responsibility, this time the higher-ups set an example. The person in charge of this matter is Feng Yingbai. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be arrested. Mu Xiangshan was a bit solemn. The Feng clan hasn't been settled. Logically speaking, this matter might be serious for ordinary people, but it shouldn't have happened to the Feng family. It's hard to say. I heard that the higher-ups haven't relented. No matter how powerful the Feng family was, it was impossible for them to cover the sky with one hand in this country. There must be other families involved in this matter. Feng Yibing only got into trouble because of this, and his father was about to go in as well. Catching a wild animal protected by the country was a serious matter, and he would be sentenced. Let's not talk about how many years it would take. Feng Yingbai getting into this matter was a wake-up call. If it was the Feng family of the past, how could they suffer such a small matter? Since Feng Yingbai had gone in, it was obvious that a lot of people had been caught. Musilian couldn't help but sigh. Why do I feel that after Feng Yibing's death, the Feng family has started to have bad luck? Not long ago, there was a Feng family member who beat up people abroad, and after being bailed out, he went in again. Chapter 246. In the past, nothing happened to the Feng family, but now it seemed that things were slowly being settled one by one. If one knew a little, they would definitely know what went wrong. Those who didn't know would think that the Feng family was unlucky. Of course, it was unlucky. This was just a small matter. Musilian hit the nail on the head. Mu Xiangshan and Mu Zhenming looked at each other and didn't speak. Qiao Fei knew some things about the Feng family, plus last time it was Feng Yingbai who brought her daughter there for no reason. She really didn't have a good impression of him. Hearing this, she curled her lips. If you know something is going to happen, you shouldn't do anything illegal. The son is not a good thing, and as expected, the old is not much better. Qiao Fei was naive and sweet, but she wasn't ignorant. She still knew the good and the bad. Feng Yibing was taught like that, so she had long felt that Feng Yingbai's family was not good. Mu Xiangshan glared at her. If Feng Yingbai didn't go in, you wouldn't say this, right? There are some things we can't say now. They had to wait until the Feng family was completely finished. Just Feng Yingbai alone couldn't make any waves in the Feng family. Musilian. In fact, I still think Feng Fei he is the strangest. She was paralyzed in the car accident last time, but in a few days, she acted like nothing happened. It's like she's been possessed. Mu Xiangshan snorted. How can there be such a ridiculous thing? It's just that the news was spread very strictly, but in fact, nothing happened. Mu Xiangshan came back later, so he wasn't very clear about the car accident. Muzichu suddenly said, I saw it with my own eyes. He pursed his thin lips, glanced at Xiao Jin without a trace, and then looked at his parents. She was lying in bed at the time, unable to move her whole body. She couldn't even say a word. I saw it with my own eyes. Not saying it didn't mean they didn't doubt it. Feng Fei his matter was really strange. Because of the Feng family's power, they didn't dare to say it. How could they care about other people's private thoughts? A person who was paralyzed on the bed seemed to be completely fine in just a few days. What kind of amazing medical treatment was involved? Mu Zhenming and the others didn't care too much about this matter, because they wouldn't think of something extremely inhuman in their bones. They said, maybe it just looks serious, but in fact, it's a small injury. However, since Feng Fei his car accident, the Feng family has been a little. After a pause, Mu Zhenming continued, but this is not what we are worried about. The main thing is that we have some businesses that are suitable for Feng Yong. If something happens to the Feng family, he frowned and found it hard to say. This couldn't be said to add insult to injury. The Feng family was very strange now. If something really happened, the Mu family, who cooperated with Feng Yongsha, might be implicated. However, it wasn't time to worry about this. The next day, Feng Yongsha and his wife came. This time, they came to find Mu Xiangshan. Mu Zilian and Mu Zichu both went to school. Xiao Jin stayed in the room because the class was in the afternoon. He clearly heard them discussing Feng Fei He and Mu Zichu in the living room. That's right, they wanted Mu Zichu and Feng Fei He to unite by marriage. The main thing was that Feng Fei his parents proposed this condition. They didn't look for Mu Zhenming. Instead, they hoped that Mu Xiangshan could stand up and preside over this matter. Mu Xiangshan didn't know Feng Fei He, but he also knew that it was best for the young people to talk about their grandchildren's matters. With his current status in this family, He. Chapter 247. Young people's affairs should be decided by the young people. Mu Xiangshan's voice was leisurely. It was obvious that he wanted to kick this matter out. Besides, Mu Zichu's affairs have always been decided by his father. You should look for Zhenming. Feng Yongsha's expression turned ferocious, but it was only for a moment. He smiled apologetically and said, "Of course we will discuss it with Zhenming, but you are still alive. You should be the one to decide this matter. My Feihe and Qi Chu are in love, and the two families have known each other for so many years." In love? Xiao Jin came down and said this. She stood at the stairs and seemed a little amused. Why haven't I heard Qi Chu say that he and Feng Fei He are in love? Feng Yongsha and Xie Jihua's expressions stiffened when they saw Xiao Jin. In their eyes, this girl was not to be trifled with. Last time, Feng Yingbai provoked her and even got into trouble now. What's more, Song Yanqing personally went to pick her up. She had Song Yanqing behind her. No matter how rude Feng Yongsha was, he couldn't be rude to her like before. He was just suspicious in his heart. It's fine to call Mu Zichu's name, but what does the engagement have to do with you? He thought so in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it on his face. He only twitched his cheek and said, "Qi Chu's face is cold, so he doesn't often come home to talk about this." Xiao Jin walked downstairs step by step. What era is it that we still rely on parents' orders and matchmakers' words? Why don't you ask Qi Chu's opinion directly? It's useless to ask the old man. If Mu Zichu agreed, they wouldn't have come directly. However, Feng Yongsha was a little anxious. Now the Feng family was a little turbulent. One incident after another had made the family panic. Even the children of the Feng family began to act in a low-key manner recently. Feng Yongsha was just an unvalued member of the Feng family. In order to stabilize his position, of course, he had to marry the Mu family. Feng Fei he had been in love with Mu Zichu for a long time, so marriage was a normal thing. As for whether Mu Zichu liked Feng Fei he or not, it was not within their consideration at all. If Mu Zhenming had the heart, he would know that Feng Fei he was only able to marry Mu Zichu because the Mu family was out of their league. When Feng Yongsha heard Xiao Jin being so aggressive, he was a little unhappy. Children shouldn't interfere in our adult affairs, right? This is your brother's business. It has nothing to do with you. Of course not, but shouldn't this matter have something to do with Qi Chu? Why didn't he inform him of his marriage? I'll call Qi Chu right now. If you have anything to say, why don't we talk it out together? Feng Yongsha saw Xiao Jin take out his phone and was about to make a call. His anger stagnated. You, let her hit you. Xie Jihua tugged at her husband's sleeve and glared at Xiao Jin. Even if he made the call, he and Feihe can only get married. These words caused Mu Xiangshan to immediately pull a long face, his voice stern. What do you mean by that? I'm still here. Where do you think this is? Do you think this is your Feng family? Mu Xiangshan rarely lost his temper, which made Feng Yongsha and Xie Jihua restrain themselves a little. No matter how they were the Feng family, they were not part of the power center. Feng Yingbai's attitude towards Xiao Jin not long ago was retribution today. Many people suspected that the Song family was involved in this. Xie Jihua was embarrassed and didn't dare to be unreasonable. Old Master Mu, I didn't mean it, please don't mind, Xiao Jin sneered. Chapter 248. She still made the call. She called Muzichu. Not long ago, she saved the phone numbers of everyone in the Mu family in her phone. Muzichu quickly answered the call. After realizing that it was Qiao Jin, he was a little surprised. "What's the matter?" Qiao Jin said directly, "Chi-Chu, Fengfei his parents came to our house and said that they wanted to talk about your marriage with Fengfei he." Feng Yongshe and Xie Zhihua saw that she was so direct, and their faces were a little stiff. Qiao Jin turned on the speakerphone, and Muzichu's voice came clearly from the other side. "Marriage? Who wants to marry her?" It was cold and cheerless, without the slightest bit of emotion. And there was a hint of obvious disgust. Not to mention that Fengfei he had an accident. Even before the accident, he didn't like Fengfei he. The reason why the two people had a little contact was because of family reasons. Fengfei he always came up. Muzilian didn't like her and didn't want to talk to her. Muzichu only had contact with her to maintain the basic courtesy. He didn't know what Fengfei he misunderstood. Muzichu's ruthless words still made Xie Zhihua and Feng Yongshe's faces ugly. Qiao Jin said with a smile, "You." Muzichu, not interested. Xie Zhihua couldn't help but scream, "You are old enough. The marriage between the two families will only bring benefits to your family. What are you unwilling to do? My Feihe is talented and beautiful. How is she not worthy of you?" He didn't want to get married because he disliked Fengfei he. No one would feel good if their excellent daughter was disliked. Especially in Xie Zhihua's heart, the Mu family being able to marry the Fengfei he was already considered a social climber. How could they refuse a family that was not as good as the Feng family? Muzichu said calmly, "Auntie, what era are we in now? A marriage alliance should at least consider mutual feelings. I just don't like your daughter. It's that simple. If you want a marriage alliance, you can find someone else. I'm not worthy of your daughter." After that, he turned to Qiao Jin and said, "Is there anything else? If not, I'm hanging up. I'm in class." Qiao Jin, "No." Muzichu hung up the phone. Feng Yongshe and Xie Zhihua's faces turned even uglier. Mu Xiangshan also sighed. "Sigh, in this day and age, the children make their own decisions. We are old. How can we care about what others think?" Feng Yongshe couldn't keep his face straight anymore. "What do young people know? I will discuss it with Zhenming. The marriage is beneficial to both of us. I hope that you will consider it carefully. We won't disturb you anymore." Mu Xiangshan waved his hand. "Butler, see the guest out." He didn't have the slightest intention of asking him to stay. The expressions of the two of them were ugly, but they didn't dare to get angry in front of Mu Xiangshan. They could only hold their breath and leave. After they left, Mu Xiangshan snorted coldly, still putting on airs in front of the Mu family. "How important do you think you are in the Feng family?" Mu Xiangshan also knew that the Feng family was a cruel place. Excluding the fact that Feng Yongshe was a child of the Feng family, it was useless if he wasn't from the Feng family. Feng Yongshe could borrow the power of the Feng family, but that was only because his surname was Feng. Qiao Jin said, "Why do they want a marriage alliance with Chi-Chu at this time? Something must have gone wrong somewhere." Mu Xiangshan thought for a while. He hadn't cared about business for a long time, so he wasn't clear about some things. "I need to investigate it. Zhenming may know. I'll talk about it when he comes back tonight." Before he finished speaking, he looked at Qiao Jin. "Aren't you going to class? You are everywhere." He was quite disgusted. Chapter 249. There are only classes in the afternoon. Did you forget that you didn't go to university? Sole question. Mu Xiangshan glared at her. "Enough, you can't be serious all day." He snorted coldly, flicked his sleeves and left. Qiao Jin smirked and returned to the bedroom upstairs. When Qiao Jin came back in the evening, Muzilian was sitting on the sofa with a look of watching a good show. Qiao Fei said something to Mu Zhenming anxiously, "But you can't let Chi-Chu marry her. I don't like her." Mother's dislike was so direct. After Qiao Fei finished speaking, she said to Muzichu sitting opposite, "Chi-Chu also doesn't like her, right?" Muzichu nodded. Qiao Jin understood the topic they were discussing at once. Seeing her come back, everyone just simply greeted her. They were not in the mood to chat with Qiao Jin now. Mu Zhenming sat next to Qiao Fei. His expression was a bit deep, but he didn't seem to be embarrassed. He just sighed softly. Feng Yongxia mentioned this before, but at that time, he just said it casually. Now he is starting to be anxious. Indeed, with the identity of the Feng family, Feng Fei he seemed to be a better match. But there were only so many outstanding children in the capital. There were very few people with good looks and IQ. Mu Zichu was already a rare rich second generation. Who else could Feng Fei he be thinking of? Unfortunately, they had been dreaming too much all this time. Mu Zillion said happily, Ari, the Feng family just had a small incident recently. Why do I see their attitude now as if they are anxious to have a marriage alliance? The benefits of having a marriage alliance with our family are just like that. How will it affect them? Anyway, it was not him who was going to have a marriage alliance, so Mu Zillion didn't panic at all. The points he raised were also the thoughts of Mu Zhenming and Mu Xiangshan. Mu Xiangshan heard the words and looked at Mu Zhenming. Is there turmoil in the Feng family? Mu Zhenming shook his head. I haven't heard of any great upheavals for the time being. Feng Yingbai's accident could only be considered a small matter. Feng family's core bloodline had no problems at all, so Mu Zhenming couldn't understand why Feng Yongxia was so impatient. With the Feng family's power, the current problems would be resolved very quickly. Qiao Fei was still a little worried. Then Qi Chu doesn't really need to marry that Feng Fei he, right? Mu Zhenming shook his head. If Qi Chu is unwilling, no one can force him. It could be seen that he was a very sensible father. Qiao Jin then said faintly, Feng Fei he is a hot potato. Not only can we not have her, we also have to make sure that Qi Chu doesn't come into contact with her anymore. As soon as she said this, everyone looked at her in silence and confusion. Mu Zhenming caught the key words of Qiao Jin. Hot potato. He thought about it and interpreted Qiao Jin's meaning from another perspective. She's not a hot potato for the time being. Feng family only has a small problem now, and this problem does not lie in Feng Yongxia's bloodline. Feng Fei he is not a hot potato. He only thought that Qiao Jin was saying that the Feng family was in turmoil now, and Feng Fei he had become a hot potato. In fact, in terms of identity, she was still the young miss of the Feng family, and she was still high and mighty. Qiao Jin raised the corners of her lips and smiled faintly. Feng Fei he didn't die in the car accident last time. How can there be such a good thing in this world? She did something she shouldn't have done, so she will definitely pay the price. People who get close to her will naturally be unlucky, so I advise Qi Chu to stay away from her. As soon as this was said, everyone in the room was a little stunned. Mu Zillion was even more straightforward. What's wrong? Did the fortune-telling go crazy? Chapter 250. There's nothing she shouldn't have done. Her car accident wasn't a big deal to begin with. Qiao Fei and the rest didn't believe her. Jin, don't talk about this all the time. You don't sound like a decent person. Qiao Jin. I'm very decent. Mu Zhenming listened to Qiao Jin and narrowed his eyes. You're saying that Feng Fei he didn't die in the car accident because she paid a price? Normal people would be suspicious if they heard this, but Mu Zhenming had always felt that Qiao Jin wasn't normal. He was very mysterious. Now that he heard her say this, he vaguely felt that there was something more to it. It was just that normal people found it hard to believe. Qiao Jin nodded. Mu Xiangshan sneered. Listen to her boasting. Didn't you say that her brain was damaged after she came back from the hospital? What kind of price in this world could bring someone back from the dead? How can there be such a ridiculous thing? It's just a normal car accident. You're cursing her as if she was really dying. Whether he was dead or not, in fact, everyone had a conclusion in their hearts. There were so many people watching. There were many people who went to the hospital to see Feng Fei he. They all knew that she was lying in the hospital and was close to being paralyzed. After a few days, she was completely fine. Some people just couldn't believe it, while others probably knew something but didn't dare to say it. Qiao Fei heard Mu Xiangshan say that Qiao Jin's brain was damaged. He couldn't help but blush. Jin has recovered a long time ago. The doctor said that there's nothing wrong with her now. Mu Xiangshan, some brain problems can't be detected by the doctor. Qiao Fei, Musilian whispered to Musichu, Grandpa is always like a troll. Mu Xiangshan, I can hear you. Useless grandson. Mu Zhenming stepped out to smooth things over. He looked at Qiao Jin and said, what you said is too mysterious. Let's not talk about this for now. I won't agree to the matter between Feng Fei He and your brother. How could these men, who had been in the business world for a long time, not see Feng Fei his character? He did not want to have such a daughter-in-law. Listening to their discussion, Qiao Jin just nodded. She didn't care about the rest and went upstairs. Taking out his phone to check Weibo, Qiao Jin finally noticed that the fortune-teller had challenged him to a duel. However, some time had passed, and the other party's fans had already thought that Qiao Jin was a fake shop owner, but they didn't dare to stir up trouble under her Weibo. They just mixed in with sarcasm. After all, her sentence about retribution coming the faster she scolded was a little scary, not to mention that there were so many apologetic antifans below. Qiao Jin raised her eyebrows and entered the Jade Pillar fortune-teller Weibo. At this time, a message popped up on WeChat. Song Yanqing, I found something interesting. Do you want to take a look? Qiao Jin immediately switched to WeChat. It was Jin Jinyo, I want to see. Song Yanqing sent a document over. Qiao Jin opened it and saw that it was a packaged photo album. The photos were fine, but the content was the problem. In the photo, Feng Fei He was standing at the entrance of an alley. She was holding a man's arm and getting out of a car. The man looked a little old. He tilted his head slightly, and his mouth was almost pressed against Feng Fei's cheek as he spoke. Feng Fei lowered her head and looked a little shy. From the side view of the photo, she clearly looked a little gloomy. Song Yanqing, this is her sixth uncle. Look at the location. Qiao Jin, wow. Chapter 251. If this photo was seen by others, they would definitely think that the two people in the photo had a close relationship. They were too close, especially the man's expression. The location of the photo was an old alley that was common in the capital, but the car they were in was quite unobtrusive. On the contrary, it seemed that the alley in front of them had a lot of secrets. Qiao Jin took a look. From her point of view, there was no problem with this alley. She asked Song Yanqing directly, where is this? Song Yanqing, the place where the Feng family's great ancestor lives. Qiao Jin paused for a moment. Generally speaking, the last situation for an array master who was burdened with evil debts was to be caught by other array masters or know the real hiding place. For this great ancestor to help the Feng family do so many evil things, he should be a person who cherishes his life. In the world of array masters, there were many things that couldn't be touched. For example, borrowing luck, exchanging fate, and substituting life and hiding life. Substituting life was easy to understand. It was to let others die for oneself. As for hiding life, it was more sophisticated. That was to hide one's life on another person. As long as the person hiding life didn't die, he wouldn't die. For a character like the Feng family, Qiao Jin felt that this great ancestor must have made such preparations. Even if he knew that he lived here, it was actually useless. However, it gave Qiao Jin something to do. She was interested, so she asked Song Yanqing, are you sure that the great ancestor lives here? Song Yanqing, after investigating for a while, the Feng family's people come here from time to time. It's not too hidden. After a while, he said again, but no one has seen this great ancestor come out. In other words, no one knows what the great ancestor looks like. Except for our Zhu, who often appears on the surface. It's Jin Jinyo, I will take some time to take a look. Song Yanqing asked with concern, will it affect you in any way? She told a lot about the Feng family. Song Yanqing knew about the great ancestor's ability. He was worried that Qiao Jin would be affected. It's Jin Jinyo, no. No one in this world could affect her, except for the karma of backlash. Song Yanqing, okay, I'll help you look into other things. Qiao Jin raised his eyebrows and switched the WeChat interface back to Weibo. He then stared at the eccentric people for a few seconds. Divination PK? Qiao Jin was not too happy about it. The main reason was that this situation was like a university teacher bullying kindergarten children. It was really too much. Scolding her would backfire on him, but he had no desire to pique her. In the end, Qiao Jin closed Weibo. However, before she closed the door, she saw a new private message pop up. Fan Jin, do you need money? She took a look and confirmed that it was Fan Jin's main account. This was her celebrity account. Although she was no longer in the entertainment industry, she still used this account. It was just that she rarely logged in. This time, he suddenly sent a message to Qiao Jin. You're here for fortune-telling today? Why are you talking about this? Fan Jin, I came across something strange when I went to the countryside for a charity event. I want you to help me out. Fan Jin, I will pay you. You're here for fortune-telling today? You tell me first, I will collect the money. Fan Jin, you type very slowly. Do you have WeChat? I will add you on WeChat and send you a voice message. Qiao Jin sent his WeChat ID to Fan Jin. When Fan Jin saw the name and profile picture on WeChat, she thought about life for 3 seconds. Okay, maybe the master still has a girl's heart. However, because of the master's decisiveness and straightforwardness, Fan Jin always thought that Qiao Jin was a man. Chapter 252. Fan Jin added Qiao Jin's WeChat and told Qiao Jin about the strange incident. She had gone to the countryside to finish an event she had signed in the circle. It was to look after the left-behind children. She had even sponsored a few left-behind children. Before they went there, the people in the town kept losing things. It was not that they were stolen, but they were lost for no reason. However, they would appear in another place every once in a while. Those who lost things remembered clearly that they did not place them randomly. They just disappeared and reappeared for no reason. Most people thought that they had a bad memory when they lost small things. Some of them were suspicious and found a so-called feng shui master, but he could not find anything. Fan Jin, we lost something when we went there, but we found it again. I remember clearly that I put it on the table. It disappeared right under my nose. Fan Jin, I think there is something wrong with a child. Fan Jin, picture, Fan Jin, that's the kid. She's an orphan. I wanted to sponsor her, but the people in town don't like her. She's living with her relatives. I think there's something wrong with her because every time she appears, even the dogs bark at her. Fan Jin, when I lost something, this child was nearby too. Fan Jin's suspicions were not for nothing. Although she was a little nervous, she was not as calm as the average person. She noticed something that the average person did not. Every time the little girl appeared, things would go missing for no reason. Others did not notice it, but she had noticed it after a few days. What was worth thinking about was the picture that Fan Jin took. In the picture was a little girl with a slightly distorted body. She was about 5 or 6 years old. It wasn't that the little girl's appearance was distorted, but that the photo itself was distorted, causing her face to be unclear. The only thing that could be seen was that the little girl's clothes were tattered, and there was dirt on her small face. Her pair of big eyes were looking over, and her clear black and white pupils had a kind of naivety to the world. Fan Jin, when I took a picture of her with my phone, the screen would flicker. That was what Fan Jin felt was wrong about. In a small town, no one would take a picture of a little girl for no reason. She also found out by accident, and then she found that if she took a picture of her, the phone would always have an unusual distortion and flicker, as if it was affected by some kind of magnetic field. She also experimented with Feng Chen Yen's phone. However, she did not tell Phoenix Chen Yen about this. In the end, it was determined that the little girl had some kind of strange phenomenon that no one knew about. She didn't know any capable people. The only person she could think of was Qiao Jin, who had told her fortune before. Fan Jin, is this a natural phenomenon? When she asked, she was actually a little confused because she had never seen it before. Qiao Jin looked at it for a while, and his expression was somewhat excited. It's Jin Jinyo, it's not a natural phenomenon. It's Jin Jinyo, it's not suitable for her to stay there. This little girl was a sorcerer, a naturally awakened spiritualist. As mentioned before, Spiritual readers were divided into innate awakenings and postnatal awakenings. Innate awakenings were brought from a very early age or from the womb. Such a pure spiritual reader who had not been tainted by the Rakshasa realm was a good seedling. Moreover, his ability was one of the best among the spiritual readers. This was probably the ability to distort the magnetic field of space. There would be such a loss of control around her, so items would be lost. She was still young, and the older she grew, the stronger her ability would be, which would lead to serious consequences. Chapter 253. Xiao Jin sent Hiyaro a message and a photo of the little girl. Finally, he asked for Fan Jin's address and sent it to Hiyaro. Of course, this kind of psychic was left to the spirit group to deal with. Xiao Jin didn't have the time. Hiyaro was surprised and excited that Xiao Jin had found a psychic. She could let the person behind her nurture her. There was a high probability that this little girl would follow them. There was no need to worry about her learning bad things. There were many psychics found all over the country, especially children. Because of this, there were many problems. Because of the psychic's ability, abnormal phenomena could not be explained to ordinary people. After telling Hiyaro about this, Xiao Jin sent Fan Jin a message that someone would come to take the little girl away. Although it was very sudden, this little girl had nothing to do with Fan Jin. She vaguely felt that this little girl was unusual, as well as this fortune-teller. After a moment of silence, Fan Jin sent another message. Fan Jin, can I know about this little girl? Anyone who wasn't a fool could guess what was wrong with the little girl. What shocked Fan Jin was that it was as if a strange world was gradually unfolding in front of her. She didn't know why she suspected that there was something wrong with this little girl and told Xiao Jin immediately. It's little Jin Jin yo. If there's a day when we meet, I'll tell you. Jin Jin, this world isn't what you think, but it's good to be an ordinary person. The spirit group maintained the normal lives of humans. Ordinary people who lived in the ordinary world wouldn't come into contact with such a vast and strange world. Psychics were powerful, but putting aside this, they were the same as ordinary people. Fan Jin seemed to understand something. Back then, when Xiao Jin had told her fortune, this fortune-teller was already ridiculously accurate. Now, it seemed that she had met a legendary person with special abilities. It turned out that they really existed. She ended the WeChat chat. This strange thing was actually a psychic. She wouldn't accept money. Xiao Jin looked at Weibo again and decided to go to the alley to take a look. The ancestor was there. She wanted to know who the ancestor was. Most importantly, Feng Fei, he was really ruthless. In order to be reborn, one had to pay the price, even if it was the Feng family. The great ancestor had to pay a price to save her. This price was definitely not something that Feng Fei he could afford. Therefore, she had to pay the most worthwhile price. What was it worth to have such a woman? It was obvious. It was really a family that made people feel uncomfortable from the bottom of their bones. Xiao Jin sighed slightly. Song Yanqing and the other party also had some connections. Phoenix Grace's bloodline seemed to be passable. Otherwise, it would have been good to wipe them all out. She looked at the photo again. This time, she knew how to find the address online. It was a famous street in the imperial capital, full of alleys and old courtyard houses. It was surrounded by tall buildings. Those who lived in such a place were either residents of the old city or wealthy. It was also heavily guarded, so it was indeed a good place to stay. After she found out the location, she left early the next morning. If she went at night, she would probably find an excuse to dance to Fei Fei again. She took the subway to this place. However, in the subway, there were too many people holding their phones and pretending to take photos of her inadvertently. Chapter 254. It was actually not suitable for her to go out now. It was not an exaggeration to say that she could really cause a little sensation. Being beautiful was one thing. A person with white and delicate skin and long seaweed-like hair seemed to have walked out of an anime. Her whole body seemed to have a halo, and there was a feeling of being in a different world from others. Now it was the information age. If she appeared in such a place, she would definitely attract the attention of others. Even the white-collar workers in the subway who dressed up and wore gorgeous makeup would unconsciously turn their heads when facing Xiao Jin. So beautiful, where did this fairy come from? Damn, I have never seen a girl with such a good temperament in my life. She actually came to take the subway? I think it is a sin to let her walk on the ground. These words were said by a few excited little girls. They pretended to take selfies, but they were secretly taking photos of Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin didn't care. She sat there, and the crowded morning rush hour abruptly gave her a space. It was already a wonder. Even an uncle sitting on the side squeezed to the sides awkwardly. The gap was enough for another person, but no one dared to sit down. When she arrived at the station, she got up, and the people around her scattered again as if they were afraid of squeezing her. When the iron door opened, a group of people who were about to rush in saw her and subconsciously paused. Then they waited for Xiao Jin to come out, then they turned their heads and entered the subway in disbelief. They were not particularly excited. Only some people smiled with some amazement. What a classy girl. She is so beautiful. Xiao Jin looked straight ahead the whole time. When she came out of the subway, she had a new look. Compared with the bustling and modern feeling on their side, this place was still lively and there were many tourists, but the buildings in the surrounding alleys had a special ancient charm, which filled this place with a simple and elegant atmosphere. However, it was a special place after all, and there were many luxury cars. It would not be strange if the Feng family came here. She walked to the place in the photo. Not far away, someone in the crowd noticed her. They looked at each other and frowned. If the great ancestor was here, there must be someone monitoring and protecting him in the dark. Xiao Jin was a person that the Feng family paid special attention to. Her appearance here would, of course, attract attention. The further Xiao Jin walked, the more the lively atmosphere changed. This place was surrounded by alleys. Other than the occasional tourists, it was actually a normal living environment for the residents. There were also tea houses nearby. They were real tea houses, and they could only drink tea and chat. Xiao Jin walked to the alley in the photo. This was an alley. Walking inside, there were ordinary courtyard houses on both sides. It was impossible to tell which one was where the Feng family's grand ancestor lived. If there is a guard at the entrance of the alley, they weren't guards. They were people who looked like they were in plain clothes, but from their physique and bearing, one could tell that they had received special training. They were walking back and forth in the alley. Through them, it was likely that the grand ancestor lived here. It doesn't even stop tourists from entering. After all, this was the residential area. Xiao Jin only looked inside, but did not walk in. Someone next to her was staring at her urgently. If it was an ordinary person, they probably wouldn't notice this kind of monitoring gaze. However, Xiao Jin only glanced at it for a moment before walking to the other side. The person who was monitoring her seemed to be relieved. It seemed that she probably didn't see anything. Then, Xiao Jin walked to a steamed bun shop about 100 meters away. Chapter 255. It was close to noon. Other than breakfast, very few people would choose to eat steamed buns for lunch. Especially in a special area like this, where there were many steamed buns. The whole shop was very clean. It was small, and there were not many people inside. An old man was sitting by the window. He was eating a steamed bun and coughing from time to time. There was a cage on the table. Inside the cage was a beautiful bird of unknown species. Xiao Jin walked in, ordered a basket of steamed buns, and sat at the table next to the old man. The old man looked ordinary, but he did not look kind. He gave off a very strict feeling. He was like the old-fashioned old people at home. Xiao Jin looked at him. The old man also looked up at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin smiled and said, "Old man, if you are still coughing, oily steamed buns are not suitable. They are not good for your health." Hearing this, the serious-looking old man laughed and looked a little kinder. "You're quite interesting, little girl. It's just that I'm old and I'm already so old. As a person, I should enjoy life as much as I can. I just want to eat a bun now. Even if I keep coughing, it won't affect the bun." Xiao Jin nodded. "You are right. People should enjoy life as long as they are alive. At this time, the shop owner came in with a basket of steamed buns. When he saw Qiao Jin talking to the old man, he smiled and said, "Old man, is this your granddaughter? She is very handsome." His words showed that he was very familiar with the old man. He must have come here often to eat steamed buns. The old man smiled and shook his head. "I am not so lucky to have such a beautiful granddaughter. She is so kind. She saw me coughing and ate steamed buns. She told me that steamed buns are too oily and are not good for your health." The shop owner also laughed. "Young lady, don't worry. Our steamed buns are all authentic and oily. The old man eats vegetarian steamed buns. It is not a problem." He waved his hand and went to do his own things. Qiao Jin nodded and began to eat the steaming hot steamed buns. Qiao Jin's words probably made the old man interested. He asked, "You are not in school now?" Qiao Jin took a bite of the steamed bun. The soup spilled out. "It tasted pretty good," she said softly. "I am in my second year. I don't have classes today, so I came out to play." The old man understood. "You haven't been in the capital for long, right?" "Yes." Qiao Jin smiled faintly. "Yes, I'm from Insignia City." "Oh, that is quite far away. You were admitted to a university here? What an amazing child." In just a few sentences, the old man had already started chatting with her casually. "It too. The old man laughed. "Life is to enjoy in time and eat good food. For people of my age, being able to eat these things is a blessing. I also agree with the saying of enjoying in time." Qiao Jin picked up the third steamed bun. There were only 4 steamed buns in this basket, and they were all only the size of a baby's fist. As she ate, she smiled and looked at the old man. "You should enjoy as much as you have. It is right to enjoy in time, but if you don't enjoy your own fortune, you will suffer retribution sooner or later. Don't you think so, great ancestor?" The old man, who was still smiling, froze for a moment. Chapter 256. Why didn't she enter the alley? It was because when she arrived at this place, she felt that the great ancestor didn't live there at all. He lived in another place. He usually didn't appear in the alley just now. He was just nearby like an ordinary resident living here. In fact, even those who protected him had never seen the great ancestor. What they saw was just a shadow. Those Feng family people might not have seen him. Such a person who cherished his life would definitely protect himself at all costs. He was now sitting in front of Qiao Jin without any preparation. He was just an ordinary old man. No one could recognize that he was the great ancestor of the Feng family. The best protection for a great hermit was to hide in the city among ordinary people. However, the great ancestor was cunning and vigilant all his life. Even if he was exposed, he would not easily drop the chain. In a moment, he recovered to a laughing appearance. "You little girl's words are really interesting. Of course, an individual's fortune should be enjoyed by himself. Who can have this ability to enjoy others' fortune? Since it is destined, then he should enjoy it." This sentence had already made his attitude clear. Since Qiao Jin recognized him, there was no need to deliberately disguise, and he would not show his fear directly. He now just regarded Qiao Jin as an ordinary array master. But in the world, this Qiao Jin could recognize his identity at a glance. This Qiao Jin was really not simple. Of course, he knew Qiao Jin. On the suspect list given by his brother Ah Zhu, this Qiao Jin was on it. Now that the Feng family was in trouble, they suspected that Qiao Jin was behind it. He didn't doubt it before, but now that Qiao Jin came to him, he was very sure. The Feng family's matter was related to this girl. How did she do it? He could get the fortune of others, but this girl could easily disintegrate it, and she came to him, which meant that she was not afraid. It was enough to make him 100% on guard. When he first saw Qiao Jin come in, for a moment, he actually thought that the other party was just passing by accidentally. His originally kind eyes had already become somewhat gloomy. He did not say that he was a strict old man, but now that his smile had disappeared, there was a sense of coldness. Qiao Jin didn't answer him. He just finished the fourth soup dumpling slowly. When he got up to pay the bill, he chuckled and said, "Then I wish you a good life. You saved someone you shouldn't have saved. This is your own fault." She didn't speak in riddles with others. She told the grand ancestor directly. Saving Feng Fei he was a mistake. This mistake was the beginning of the Feng family's destruction. Seeing her leave after paying the bill, the great ancestor's face darkened. He had lived here for more than 10 years and had never been recognized by anyone. This girl easily exposed his identity and was able to cause the Feng Fei he to be in such a predicament. So, what did Feng Fei he do? In the birdcage on the table, the birds chirped, which sounded crisp and pleasant. The great ancestor stroked the bird's head slowly, then he continued to eat the remaining buns. He seemed to be slow, but in fact, if a careful person was here, he could notice that his movements were a little impatient. He was not as gentle as before. He had lived here for more than 10 years, and he knew the people nearby. When the shop owner talked to him, he just nodded reluctantly, then he quickened his pace and left here. He realized that something big was really going to happen to the Feng family. He couldn't let this happen. Chapter 257. Qiao Jin came to the side of the road, and a black car was parked not far away. The car was coated with a special film. Looking outside, she couldn't see the person inside. She walked over and raised her hand to knock on the car window without hesitation. The car window rolled down, and Song Yanqing's stunning face appeared in her sight, bringing a fresh and elegant aura. "You know it's me." He chuckled. "Are you in the front row?" said, "Master, the last time we met Miss Qiao, she seemed to have driven this car." Qiao Jin just shook her head and said, "I can feel you when you appear here. Why are you here?" She didn't say that she was going to look for the great ancestor today. Song Yanqing didn't speak. He just opened the door first and let Qiao Jin get in. Qiao Jin sat in naturally. Song Yanqing sat on the other side and said, "Are you here to look for the great ancestor?" Qiao Jin nodded. Song Yanqing, "Did you find him?" Qiao Jin, "Found him." Song Yanqing was a little surprised. "It's so easy to see him." The great ancestor of the Feng family has always been very secretive. Even he hasn't seen him. He hasn't heard anything for so many years. The other party is very surprising. Qiao Jin directly exposed the great ancestor's background. He doesn't live in the place in the photo, but he lives nearby and disguised himself as an ordinary resident. Even the people who protect him don't know who they are protecting. While talking, she saw the great ancestor walking over. She could feel it, but the great ancestor couldn't feel her nearby. Qiao Jin reached out and pointed, "Look, it's him." Song Yanqing, the real person, came unexpectedly. He used to think that the great ancestor was mysterious. Especially with the Feng family's nervous attitude, it must be very difficult to see him. Maybe he was in a more mysterious place. He never expected that the other party would appear in front of him with a birdcage. He looked at his age and found that he was about 70 or 80 years old. However, in his memories, this grand ancestor had existed for a very long time. He was also an array formation master. It was hard to say if he was over 100 years old. To be able to have such a body at the age of 100, it was indeed strange. Song Yanqing looked at him a few times and laughed. "I didn't expect him to be so ordinary. There was nothing wrong with his appearance." He looked at Qiao Jin again. "I remember you said that doing these things can easily backfire. People who suffered from the backlash usually didn't look too good, but this grand ancestor didn't have any problems. There will indeed be a backlash." He used the formation to borrow the luck of others to block it. Qiao Jin paused for a moment. "I didn't think carefully enough before. If the Feng family only has him and Arzu, 2 array masters, then borrowing luck and blocking the backlash, such a big family, such an array can't be done by just the 2 of them." Song Yanqing raised his eyebrows slightly. "Is there someone behind them?" Qiao Jin nodded. "There must be. Last time, another array master appeared in Yu Sai's incident. It might not be involved, but after all, this world was so big. Her intuition always appeared inexplicably, but not everything would have an intuition." She lowered her head and thought for a while. I think the array master who changed your fate probably won't be hidden for long. Speaking of this, Song Yanqing's pupils suddenly shrank for a moment. His expression was also a little cold. He was polite to people, but he wasn't a good person. The person who changed his fate would naturally have the same ending. Chapter 258. Oji got out of the car to smoke. The main reason was that he didn't quite understand what Miss Chow talked about with the young master every time. The young master didn't hide it from him. He didn't realize it was a secret at all. In fact, he knew that this was because the young master trusted him, but people always had to be tactful. Even if he understood, Oji would never listen. He only knew one fact. Miss Chow was a badass character. If there is someone behind them, their strength will be even greater. Song Yanqing carefully analyzed the possibilities. The Feng family is such a big family. If they can control the Feng family, they will inevitably control more forces, and it will be more serious. He looked serious as if he thought of something terrible. Don't worry about this. Xiao Jin shook his head. If it is a higher level, it represents the country's national fate. No one can carry such a fate except for the destined person. It is possible that they have infiltrated some forces. Moreover, array masters and spiritual masters were extremely difficult to come by. If they really appeared, the number of array masters that still existed could be counted. Otherwise, the world would have been in chaos long ago. Song Yanqing asked, "You can't find out?" Xiao Jin just shook his head. "I didn't find out. It's not that I can't find out, but the other party didn't give me any clues. Just like the great ancestor, she directly found out when she arrived here. For other people, if the other party didn't show up, it would be troublesome to check people out of thin air. She was an array master, not a real fortune teller. Too far away?" Song Yanqing looked out of the window and thought for a moment. "I have a guess. The other party may not be active in the capital often, and the range of domestic activities is still too large. It may be abroad." "Abroad?" Xiao Jin thought for a moment. It is very possible. The farther the place, the harder it is to check. The two chatted happily, but Song Yanqing's thoughts drifted to another place. Will there be spiritual masters abroad? Of course. Xiao Jin said very directly, "I haven't been there, but I know. This kind of thing must be random on a global scale. There are not only spiritual masters in China. Maybe the name abroad is different. I can feel that there is still abnormal energy overseas." "Energy?" Song Yanqing tilted his head and showed an interesting expression. "What do you feel in your world? How do you formation masters see this world?" "Just like you guys." Xiao Jin was very indifferent. "There's nothing special about this world. Array masters only have an extra layer of perception that they can use. The difference is that some people use it to do bad things, while others use it to benefit the world." "Song Yanqing, what about you? What do you think?" He turned sideways and looked at Xiao Jin seriously. "Actually, I've always wanted to ask you what your thoughts are. I was about to die at that time. Even if you needed death energy, I felt that you had more ways to get it. I felt that even without me, you could have avoided the backlash you were talking about. You saved me and even made me a spiritualist. When you did all this, did you not think about why? Do I need to think?" Xiao Jin felt that his question was very strange. "I need death aura, and you happen to be the closest to me. Saving you didn't take much effort, and doing these things is the same." She raised her eyebrows. "It's just convenient." Song Yanqing sighed slightly. "I understand." He was good at using complicated thoughts to speculate about others, but in the end, there was someone who didn't take the normal path. Chapter 259. Sometimes she looks mysterious and powerful, but her thoughts are extremely simple and casual. Saving him is convenient, and so is doing other things. Because it doesn't take any effort. Perhaps in the eyes of others, this is a miracle, but in her eyes, it is natural. Xiao Jin says seriously, "In fact, there is another meaning." Song Yanqing looks at her. Xiao Jin says, "You are beautiful." Song Yanqing, Dan hears this sentence when he lowers his body and is about to return to the car. Dan, he silently straightens up again. It's not suitable for him to return to the car for the time being. He should be under the car. Song Yanqing laughs so hard that his shoulders are shaking. His slender fingers slide across the corners of his mouth. He can't hide his smile, and his whole body is trembling. Yes, I have to be glad that I am good-looking. Whether it is true or not, he doesn't consider that he is good-looking, but this is the first time he clearly understands how important it is to be good-looking. Qiao Jin's expression is still serious. You don't have to laugh. I am not praising you. I am just stating a fact. No one can say that Song Yanqing is not good-looking. Song Yanqing now fully understands that her brain circuit is a little different from others. He takes a few seconds to calm down, but the corners of his mouth still can't hide the smile. Well, but you have to know that this sentence is a compliment. Just like you are good-looking, you are more good-looking than before. When they first met, Song Yanqing didn't have much of an impression of her. She looks like a hurt and depraved girl. Qiao Jin, whom during this period of time, she has been nourishing herself well. She doesn't care whether she is good-looking or not, because her body is getting healthier and has reached the ultimate perfect state of human beings. There is no need for exercise or additional training. She can now overturn a car with her ordinary strength. This is the perverse part of an array master. As long as you know how to use array points, you can achieve all kinds of incredible goals. Qiao Jin thinks for a moment. We seem to have deviated from the topic. Song Yanqing hummed softly and laughed. We were just talking about spiritual readers overseas. Qiao Jin said, yes, I have to go abroad for my summer vacation. It will be around 2 to 3 weeks. Song Yanqing knew that she was going, but he didn't expect it to take so long. What if you need my death aura? Qiao Jin glanced at him and said, it's okay to take it later. Song Yanqing narrowed his eyes slightly and replied, millimeter. He looked at the time. Do you have anything to do at noon? Qiao Jin shook his head and said gently, I'll take you to lunch. Qiao Jin, okay. Song Yanqing asked Dan to come back and drive. He instructed him to go to a restaurant that Qiao Jin had never heard of. He didn't need to have heard of it before. Anyway, it was delicious. In the end, she bumped into Musilian this time. It wasn't that she bumped into him, but she saw Musilian first. He was fooling around with a large group of rich second-generation young masters. But in the place they came to, even Musilian only ate in the private room on the first floor. Song Yanqing took Qiao Jin directly to a private room on a higher floor, where the chef served. After going upstairs, Qiao Jin said to Song Yanqing, I saw Qi Lian. Song Yanqing immediately reacted. Ask him to come up and eat with us. Qiao Jin refused. No, there are too many people. If you pay, I won't be able to afford it next time. Song Yanqing. Chapter 260. If Musilian heard this, he would probably burst into tears. While they were eating in the private room downstairs, a rich man who had just returned from the washroom sneaked around and exclaimed, Fuck. Do you know who I saw just now? All the rich men in the room looked over. Who did you see? Yeah, he looks like he hasn't seen the world yet. Musilian held his wine glass and said happily, What's the matter? Did you see your father? The rich man said, He's more of a father than my father. I saw young Master Song. Everyone. Fuck. Although there were many Lord Song in the capital, the only one who could be addressed as young Master Song by these rich men was Song Yanqing. Everyone knew who he was at the mention of him. The rich men were proud. It's so glorious. I actually ate at the same place as young Master Song today. I have to post it on my WeChat moments to celebrate. Musilian. His expression was a little strange. Aren't you exaggerating? It's not like we're eating at the same place. The rich man retorted, Fuck, we're not like you who talked to him before. Who in the capital doesn't treat him like a god? My parents don't even compare him to me at home. In their words, I'm humiliating him by comparing me to young Master Song's hair. Musilian. Although it was exaggerated, it was the truth. The rich man who spoke earlier became even more excited. Do you think that's all? What's the most important thing? It's that a girl appeared beside him, okay? Fuck, I saw her just now. She looks like a fairy just like him. She's definitely not the kind of low-class goods you usually see. She doesn't look like a rich man's daughter either. I don't know if she's just returned to the country. Not to mention her figure and appearance, the key is her temperament. She's a perfect match with him. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't even be bothered to drink. How is that possible? There's someone who's not inferior to him when walking with him? Isn't it too exaggerated? How can there be such a fairy girl? Fuck, there's someone in the capital who's worthy of young Master Song? Didn't they say that the Mu family's adopted daughter was very close to him? Everyone suddenly looked at Musilian. Musilian instantly knew that they were talking about Qiao Jin. Yes, the news that there was a girl around Song Yanqing had spread like wildfire recently. Some people also said that she was the adopted daughter of the Mu family, but the Song family deliberately suppressed the news. Most importantly, not many people had actually seen the current Qiao Jin. They had only heard of him. This group of rich second-generation heirs usually didn't hang out in school, so naturally, they didn't know Qiao Jin. When they saw him this time, they thought he was from another family. The key point was that Musilian didn't really acknowledge Qiao Jin as his sister outside. Musilian coughed. I don't know. Don't ask me. The group of brothers began to urge him. You don't know? She's already considered your younger sister, yet you still don't know? Musilian flew into a rage out of humiliation. What kind of person is young Master Song? Didn't a fairy girl appear? My mother's adopted daughter is not presentable. He knew that they were talking about Qiao Jin, but he just didn't want to say it. Otherwise, this group of bastards would chase after him and ask for gossip. How would he know? He didn't even know how these two fairies hooked up. At this moment, a man walked in from outside. He was wearing a suit and was tall and looked quite intimidating. It was Song Yanqing's personal bodyguard, Ah Tong. Ah Tong looked around at everyone in the private room and smiled. Everyone, I didn't expect Miss Chow's brother to be eating here. My young master said that this meal is on him. Musilian. Chapter 261. Mu Chilian felt a sharp pain in his face. He had just denied that the girl with Song Yanqing had nothing to do with his sister. However, everyone present knew that he was the only one who had a sister with the surname Qiao. Ben went out after he finished speaking. He was so leisurely that he didn't think about the awkward situation Musilian would face. After that, everyone looked at him with strange expressions. My mother's adopted daughter can't be presentable. I don't know. I don't know where this fairy sister came from. Everyone spoke one after another. It was a classic example of sarcasm. Musilian, he drank a mouthful of wine to calm himself down. No, I really don't know. Who are you lying to? The rich second generation who came in to deliver the news looked wretched. How can you not know that your sister has such a good relationship with young Master Song? Fuck, your sister is really a fairy. How can she have such a good relationship with young Master Song? Isn't she a fairy? She's really good looking. This group of rich second generation usually didn't have a filter, but in front of Qiao Jin, they couldn't say anything else. They kept repeating the words good looking and couldn't find the right adjective. Those who hadn't seen her before were curious. How good looking? To be able to make young Master Song treat her differently, she must be good looking. I just don't know how good looking she is. The rich second generation said mysteriously, I can't describe it. She's just like young Master Song. She's so fairy-like that she's glowing. That's too exaggerated. Is she really that good looking? Then we have to broaden our horizons. Ha 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 ha, Qi Lian, your sister is so good looking. Aren't you moved at all? Someone suddenly said this in a teasing tone. Musilian's face sank when he heard this. What do you mean? The originally cheerful atmosphere became a little stagnant. Everyone looked at the person who spoke. The person who said this realized that he had said something wrong. He quickly restrained his smile and became a little nervous. No, I just said it casually. Don't take it seriously. Everyone was used to joking and some things came out easily. Qiao Jin was not Musilian's biological sister, which was why he had such a conjecture. But sometimes, even if he was used to joking, it didn't mean that every Musilian could afford it. His face darkened. "Don't put your filthy thoughts on me." Qiao Jin was brought back by his biological mother. She had raised him for 20 years. How could he have other thoughts? The rich second-generation heir who had first met Song Yanqing also chimed in. "Yes. If you see Sister Qi Lian, you definitely won't be able to say that." Encountering someone with such a temperament, he felt that anything he said would be blasphemous. "Hey, Qi Lian, don't mind him. He's just an idiot who spouts nonsense. Don't lower yourself to his level. Besides, didn't young Master Song invite us?" Someone came out to smooth things over, and the topic was finally diverted. Song Yanqing treating everyone was a rare thing. Almost everyone sitting in the room felt honored. They all took out their phones to edit their WeChat moments. It was as if this was something that their ancestors had never done before. After all, this group of people usually listened to Song Yanqing. To be treated to a meal by him was too significant, okay? Even if it was to rub against Musilian's sister, what did it matter? Musilian's sister was their sister. If Musilian knew these people's shameless thoughts, he probably wouldn't want to eat on the spot. Chapter 262. How's your relationship with your family? I heard that your grandfather is back. At the dinner table, Song Yanqing suddenly brought up this question. Qiao Jin said, "He came back a long time ago. You should have asked this question earlier." Song Yanqing smiled faintly. He felt that because of his relationship with Qiao Jin, it was the right time to ask her some questions. Qiao Jin suddenly asked, "Your father hasn't come back from abroad?" Song Yanqing nodded. "There are a lot of things to do. There's nothing I can do." For people at their level, especially in the family, he basically helped in the country. He had to rely on Song Maiyin to talk about many things abroad. Of course, his sister Song Suyu would also help. The Song family didn't raise idle people. Even his mother was abroad from time to time. Qiao Jin paused for a moment. "I think I'll run into something this time." As for what it was, she couldn't tell. Song Yanqing asked curiously, "What happened?" Qiao Jin shook her head. "I definitely don't know. It probably has something to do with school. I can calculate the fate of many people, but I can't calculate my own." Song Yanqing smiled. "It's different from what I imagined." He thought that such a person would definitely calculate her life's fate in advance. But it was normal. In that case, wouldn't life be meaningless? Not everyone liked having their fate calculated by others. Just like those fortune-tellers, not everyone was willing to calculate their own fate. The greatest novelty of a person was the unknown of fate. Qiao Jin took a bite of the meatball. "My fate will be blocked by karma. I can't see everything in the future. However, my intuition is very accurate. It's an extra compensation." Song Yanqing thought of the characteristics of his spiritualist and asked her softly, "How do you need to increase your ability?" Qiao Jin shook her head. "It's actually impossible to predict. It's true that abilities can be increased, but everyone has a corresponding way of growth. It was already 1 in 10,000 for a spiritual reader to be able to awaken. If they could still advance, they would also be 1 in 10,000 for a spiritual reader. Everyone's abilities are predestined from the moment they awaken. Generally, those who can grow are innately awakened. As they grow older, they will become stronger and stronger until they reach a certain stage. Just like her, she was able to find the demonic spirit seed and increase her defenses. In fact, she was already the strongest array master. Back then, how did she become the strongest? It was as if she was born this way. This was very infuriating. Song Yanqing smiled and said, "You said at the beginning that you could strengthen your abilities through training." Qiao Jin glanced at him. "That's for you. You should train more often. I have a feeling that you'll improve at some point. You're different from others. Since you were targeted by the Rakshasa realm, you are not a simple spirit master of speech. Have you seen them recently?" Song Yanqing shook his head. "I haven't seen you since the last time you awakened me. Just because they haven't seen it doesn't mean that they have given up. We still have to be careful. She thought for a moment and continued, the aura of death on your body is heavy. There's still a possibility of danger. If your mind is firm, you won't be disturbed by the Rakshasa realm. As long as there's a crack in your heart, they can take advantage of it and enter. Song Yanqing nodded. I know. At his level, his mind was firm. He had been like this for so many years. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.